Hey there, tonight we wander into a place not marked on any map, down a street you've probably never seen, and toward a building that only opens when the clock strikes exactly 3:07 a.m. Not a minute sooner, not a second later. You might think this is just another forgotten place, some dusty ruin passed over by time, but the air there. It hums like a tuning fork buried in velvet. You see it now, don't you? A curled paper under your windshield wiper trembling slightly in the wind. No name, no address, just an oddly crisp serif font 3:07 a.m. and a scrawled number below it. The edges are burnt, not scorched but softly curled like the flyer aged before its time. Something about it unsettles you the way the numbers seem. Patient. You consider tossing it, but you don't. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening right now, drop your city and your current time in the comments, just to see who else is out there, drifting with us in the dark. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's drift into tonight's dark tale together. You keep that flyer in your jacket pocket, even though you can't explain why. Maybe it's the precision of the time, maybe it's the way your fingertips tingle every time you touch it. Or maybe you just like the idea that something is waiting for you exactly when the rest of the world is asleep. The days roll on. You keep thinking about that paper. You even forget where it came from. Was it really under your wiper? Or slipped through your door? You try showing it to someone, your friend with the late-night job, maybe the old neighbor who never sleeps. But each time, the moment you pull it out, the room chills slightly and no one quite hears you right. It's like the flyer doesn't want to be explained. Eventually, curiosity outweighs hesitation. You Google the numbers. Nothing. You reverse image search the font. No matches. You even call the number disconnected. Still that time, 3:07 a.m. It presses in your mind like a door left ajar in a storm. So one night as the clock blinks 2:48 a.m., you step outside with your coat and start walking. You're not entirely sure where you're going, just a direction pulled more by instinct than by geography. The streets are unusually quiet even for that hour, not peaceful quiet, hollow quiet. As if the world is waiting for something too. And then, just past the closed florists and a laundromat with humming neon, you see it. A street you've passed countless times but never noticed, lined with fog that doesn't spill out, only in. A whisper crosses your mind just as your feet step onto the curb. You're on time. But the wind here doesn't rustle, it curls. The trees don't sway, they lean. You glance at your phone. 3:02 a.m. 5 minutes to whatever this is. You hesitate at the corner, then keep going. You don't want to arrive late. A faint joke drifts through your thoughts. Libraries hate tardiness. And yes, there is a building ahead, sandwiched between two taller ones. It shouldn't be there. There's no architectural memory of it, no sign, no address. Just a dark storefront with windows painted over in soot black and a single light bulb flickering over the door like a heartbeat skipping every third beat. A minute passes, then another. You draw closer. 3:06 a.m. That light above the door flashes once, twice, then turns steady, and the door unlocks with a sound like pages flipping. You know that sound. You've heard it late at night when reading old books, right before you fall asleep and dream of things you never meant to remember. And so you reach for the handle, cool metal, the faintest vibration. The door opens soundlessly like it's been waiting all along. You step in. The air changes. The air always changes in these stories. It becomes thicker, textured. Not heavy like humidity, but layered, like breathing through muslin steeped in rosemary and charcoal. And paper, always the scent of paper, old paper, cracked spines and whisper-thin parchment, except you don't see any books, not yet. The door closes behind you with a gentle finality, a soft thum that reverberates deep in your chest. No windows in here, no exit signs. Just dim amber lighting from oil lanterns that flicker gently, almost in rhythm with your heart. And that's when the silence hits you. Not absence of sound silence. This is curated silence, the kind used in ancient temples, the kind that makes your ears ring with your own thoughts. You strain to hear the outside, but the world has vanished behind the door. Your footsteps fall soft on the velvet-carpeted floor. There's a desk. There's a bell on it. You don't ring it. You know better than to ring bells in strange places. Instead, you wait, because someone is moving beyond the desk. A shape, blurry, more suggestion than person, shuffling papers that aren't there, tilting their head toward shelves that aren't visible. The figure moves like an old librarian archiving sound itself, and still no books, just rows of empty space. That's when it strikes you. This place isn't organized by books. It's organized by moments. You walk forward. Your shadow doesn't follow quite right. It pauses occasionally as if reading over your shoulder. A soft draft brushes past you even though no doors have opened. The scent of lavender, the hiss of distant whispering, like turning pages in a dream. And somewhere in the air around you, the faint echo of something said long ago in a language no one remembers. Those who open the wrong spine forget the name they left behind. It's a whisper, soft and dry like a scholar with lips of vellum. You freeze, not because of fear, but because you almost understand it. And because something about this place, this library, feels oddly familiar. Like you've been here before, but only in dreams. Or maybe stories your grandmother told before bed, about a place that keeps time differently. Where memory is a checked-out item and only the brave return it. Experts still wonder whether ancient oral libraries, like those preserved by Dogon elders or Siberian dream keepers, existed in places like this. You take a step forward anyway, because your curiosity, it's louder than the silence. You move deeper into the space, guided by nothing but instinct and that strange tickle in your chest, like a thread pulling softly behind your sternum. It leads you away from the entry, away from the flickering lantern above the desk, and into a corridor that curves slightly to the right. It shouldn't curve. From the outside, the building was flat, wedged between structures like a forgotten tooth. But now it feels endless. The ceiling arches gently overhead, ribbed with beams that look carved, not constructed. They resemble vertebrae. You smile uneasily, just architecture, probably. There's no signage, no labels, just alcoves on either side of the hallway. You pause at one and peer inside. A wooden chair, empty. Another. This one has a small table beside it. On the table, a steaming cup of something dark, still hot. You don't touch it. You're not sure you could, even if you wanted to. Something tells you the tea isn't for touching. Further in, a grandfather clock stands in one niche. Its pendulum swings slowly, impossibly slow, like it's struggling through honey. It's not ticking, it's breathing. Time in this place has abandoned all pretense of linearity. You check your phone out of habit. 3:07 a.m. Still, no matter how long you walk, it will always be 3:07 here. You consider turning back, but that door is gone. You already know it. The moment you stepped past the arch, the library retracted it, like a mollusk drawing in its soft parts after a poke. You're not a prisoner, you're a page, and pages don't leave the book. There's a whisper to your left. You don't turn, not immediately. You listen first, the way you would listen to rain sneaking down an attic wall. The whisper isn't words. It's breathy and rustled like fabric sliding across an old desk. Then it repeats and you recognize a pattern, a cadence. It's trying to speak the way you speak, mimicking your breathing, your rhythm, practicing you. You do turn now, slowly. There's a shadow moving behind one of the alcove curtains, not quite shaped like a person, not quite not. And you realize there are no shelves because the library doesn't store books in this part. It stores selves. Suddenly, you remember a story. One of those bedtime tales from folklore, the kind whispered by elders around fires, faces lit only by flame. The Inuit have a myth about a memory trader, a being who wanders the dreams of lost travelers and offers them knowledge in exchange for the name of their mother. Once you take the trade, you remember the answer to any question, but forget who you are. It was meant to be a cautionary tale about knowledge without wisdom, or maybe just a warning about libraries. You smile again, but it doesn't reach your eyes this time, because the curtain twitches, and you hear your own voice faintly saying something you don't remember saying, your whisper from behind the curtain. Don't open what isn't written yet. But you keep walking, because forward is the only direction here, and because this place. It reacts to hesitation. The walls here are old stone now, damp and lichen-flecked like a crypt beneath a chapel. You smell moss, cedar, something faintly metallic again, like blood that's been dried too long on a blade to matter. There's a light ahead. Dim blue, cool, you reach it, and step into a circular chamber. No doors out, just one small table and atop it. A single book, no title on the cover, no author. Just dark green leather, gently scuffed. Your breath slows, the room responds, its silence deepens. You hear your heartbeat in your ears. The book smells like your childhood attic, dusty, a little damp, and touched by something faintly floral. Jasmine, or that perfume your aunt wore, the one who used to tell ghost stories even when you begged her not to. You reach for the book, your fingers hover above it. And that's when you notice something carved into the table's edge. To read is to remember. To remember is to remain. But you sit. The chair is warm, not like it's been heated, more like someone just stood up. You pick up the book, it's lighter than it looks, and you open it to the first page. Nothing. Blank. You flip the second, still blank. Third, fourth. On the fifth page, words begin to appear, slowly, like ink bleeding upward from beneath the paper. You watch as your own name writes itself in tiny, neat script. Your full name, your childhood nickname, the name only your grandmother used when she brushed your hair, and below that, a single sentence. You will forget how you arrived. You blink, flip to the next page and the next. It's writing your life, not a metaphor, your actual life, in unsettling detail, things you've forgotten, things you never told anyone, and most curiously, things that didn't happen. You read a sentence about a storm that never came, about a friend who moved away when you were 10 but never actually did, about a phone call with your mother that ended in tears but you've never cried on the phone with her. Have you? You're not sure anymore. The memories begin to blur, like they've been edited, annotated, rearranged. But experts still wonder whether altered memories, like the Mandela effect, come from collective false recall or subtle interference by some external narrative force. Perhaps a library like this one, hidden behind dream logic and smoke. You keep reading, because you want to know. You try to close the book, but your hands hesitate. Not because you're afraid, though you probably should be, but because the page is still forming. Ink leaks like thoughts you haven't had yet, curling into letters you almost recognize. The words describe a moment, this moment. You sitting here, trying to decide whether to stop reading, and then it writes. You look up. So you do. You hadn't even meant to. But your neck lifts like it's obeying someone else's script, and standing across the room on the other side of the round chamber is a man. No, a figure, shrouded in old robes dark as dried ink. His face is obscured, blurred like a poorly developed photograph. You can't tell if he's old or young, human or something that simply wears the shape of one. He doesn't move, but the silence between you stretches tighter. You blink. He's closer. Not dramatically, just subtly. Like the story is being skimmed and you've turned a few too many pages ahead. You clutch the book tighter. His hand lifts slowly, not to threaten but to point. Behind you, you don't want to turn around, so instead you ask, softly, out loud, "What do you want?" The figure tilts its head, and you hear a voice, not from him, from the air itself, like the room has decided to answer. To reshelve. You don't know what that means yet. You will. You remember an old legend, half remembered from a podcast you half listened to while half awake. It was about a haunted scriptorium in the Carpathians where monks wrote books that wrote back. One monk vanished, and all they found was his quill scribbling by itself, ink forming his name over and over again until the page tore. Some think it was a ghost story. Others say it's a metaphor for the dangers of obsession. But you wonder now, maybe it was just a bad librarian or a very persuasive book. You finally summon the courage to glance behind you. The wall is gone. Where it once was, a hallway now stretches, a narrow, candle-lit tunnel lined with old portraits. No labels, just eyes, watching. All the faces seem familiar, though you're certain you've never met them. One looks like your elementary school art teacher. Another looks like your childhood self, older than you ever were. Another, this one closest, bears a startling resemblance to the librarian you saw earlier, though this time their expression is serene. You turn back to the figure in the room, gone, as if he stepped into one of the portraits and took a seat. The book in your hands grows heavier. The page reads, "You followed." The corridor pulls you in like a breath inhaled. Walls close tighter the farther you go. At one point, your shoulder brushes a candle holder and the flame flickers. You pause, listening for footsteps, but hear only your own breath. The air tastes dusty and faintly like marzipan, sweet but wrong, like something sweet trying too hard to seem innocent. You pass a mirror, or maybe a painting, you can't tell. It shows a hallway like the one you're in, but deeper. Your reflection is missing. You try not to think about it. There's a door ahead. A narrow wooden one with a faded symbol carved into it, a circle with a vertical line down the middle. It twitches slightly like it's breathing. You press your hand against it. Warm. It doesn't open. It accepts you. There's no other way to describe it. Its sighs open like a held breath, and you step through. The room beyond is impossibly tall, like the interior of a bell tower crossed with a cathedral. Stacks spiral upward with no ladders, no stairs, just ledges and voids and the occasional flicker of movement where no one should be able to stand. This must be the real library. You expected silence, but here there's a soft murmur, like hundreds of people mumbling just below hearing range. Not threatening, not friendly either, just present. You look up and see something unsettling. Every shelf is empty, but there are names carved into each space where a book should be. Names like the man who never called back, the girl who left her shadow in Prague, the boy who dreamed in Morse code. You walk along the first row, running your fingers gently across the wood, and then your hand stops, because one of the carved names is yours, not just your first name, your full name. Even the middle one you never liked, in the handwriting you used when you were 11. No book in the space, just the name. And beneath it a date, not today's date, but one from your past, your 8th birthday. You don't remember anything strange about that day, except maybe that dream. The one with the endless hallway and the whisper behind your ear. The one where you found a door and forgot what was behind it. You lean in and whisper, "What does it mean?" And the whispering in the room stops, completely, just for a moment, then resumes. Only now it's repeating your question, over and over. What does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? You back away. The silence snaps again like a bone set too late. And behind you, a spiral staircase descends, not up like you expected, but downward into something older, something deeper. Experts still debate whether the concept of nominative magic, where names shape fate, was simply cultural tradition, or rooted in some shared subconscious understanding of identity as a narrative container. You grip the railing. The staircase yawns into the earth, black and stone cold. The book in your hand whispers something new. Downstairs is where the stories write themselves. And despite everything in you that says no, you begin to descend. The first step down creaks like old wood, but the stairs are stone, cool, damp, and hewn from rock that shouldn't make noise. You pause, listening. Nothing echoes. Nothing greets you but the steady, pulsing silence of something waiting far below. You glance upward. The spiral behind you has already disappeared into shadows like a dream you forget mid-sentence. Only forward now. One step, then another. Each stone gives slightly under your weight as if not entirely solid. They don't feel carved, but grown. You run your hand along the wall. It's smooth, almost soft, like polished bone or wax. The descent stretches long, but never tiring. The air grows thicker, scented with dust and something faintly medicinal, like dried herbs crushed into paper. You think of your grandmother's cedar chest, the one she never let you open alone. A light flickers below, pale yellow. You descend further, and then the whispering begins again. But this time, not from around you, from within you. You hear it in your breath, in your bones, in your memory. Turn back now, it murmurs gently as though afraid to upset you. But it's too late for that, isn't it? You've already opened the first page. You've already seen your name on a shelf, and the library has seen you. But at the bottom, the air opens up into another chamber, smaller, more intimate, round like the one above, but quieter. The ceiling is low and lined with faded frescoes, barely visible shapes of open books with mouths instead of pages. In the center, a table. On the table, a card catalog. And not just any catalog, the catalog. The kind every ancient library once used, back before computers flattened curiosity into algorithms. Wood drawers, brass handles, little white cards waiting inside with perfectly typed descriptions. But this catalog is different. Each drawer has no label, just a faint pulse of light behind the wood, like something alive is breathing beneath the grain. You approach. You don't open a drawer. One opens for you. Inside is a single card, yellowed, crisp edges, embossed faintly with a symbol you don't recognize. You hold it to the light. It reads, "Subject, that which you almost became. Cataloged 3:07 a.m. Filed under Miss Selves Category 9. Reference, see Mirror 7, Reflection 3. Your fingers tremble slightly. The card is warm, like it was just written, and on the back a short poem. There once was a version who knew how to lie, but chose instead silence and let people cry. Now shelves hold the truth they never did say, while shadows remember the words thrown away. You laugh. It escapes before you can stop it, not because it's funny, but because it's too specific, too sharp. You did let someone cry once, and you did say nothing. You even forgot their name until now. You pocket the card. Instinct, not logic. It just feels right. The catalog doesn't mind. It's already sliding its drawer shut like a mouth finishing a sentence. There's another passage now, an archway you don't remember noticing. It glows with a faint gray shimmer, not welcoming, not forbidding, just expectant. And above the arch, a phrase etched in silver, the index of things left unspoken. You step through. This hallway is narrow, lined with thin volumes stacked spine out on floating shelves. No walls, just books floating in place, buzzing faintly with quiet energy. They hum when you pass like bees inside a memory hive. You reach out to touch one. A soft shiver runs up your arm. It vibrates gently as if responding to your pulse. The spine reads, December 13th, the conversation that didn't happen. You feel a pinch behind your eyes. The memory surfaces instantly. You demon a call that day. You de-typed half a message, then deleted it and then forgot, until now. The book begins to open itself, pages fluttering. You read your own thoughts, the ones you never said aloud, regret. Rationalizations, a weirdly vivid memory of a coffee mug in your hand, cracked on the handle. The pages grow blank halfway through, waiting perhaps for you to finish the thought. You close it. You don't want to write that ending, not yet. A shadow moves behind the shelves. This time not whispering, it just walks, softly, gracefully. It doesn't approach, it paces. Like a docent in a museum of might-have-beens. You don't follow it. You follow the scent instead, something like burnt cedar and old perfume. It leads to a low alcove where only one book floats. No spine, no cover, just pages, suspended, blank, until you exhale. And then the ink appears. It begins with a sentence you've never said out loud. I didn't mean to stay silent that long. The library heard it and chose to write it down. You remember an old story, folklore this time, not myth. The Filipino tale of the Tawang Lipad, the silent wind spirits said to collect unspoken truths and hide them in the gaps between banana leaves. Some believe you can hear your own regrets whispering through a forest after a storm. You wonder if those spirits visit this library. Maybe this is where they file their collections. Experts still wonder whether folktales like these evolved as metaphors for grief or as warnings to speak before silence hardens. You let that thought settle, And then, from behind you, a voice. Not yours, not from the shadow, just there, soft, genderless, smiling. Would you like to return something overdue? You don't turn around right away. The voice wasn't threatening. It was warm, even, but something about its phrasing lodges in your spine like a splinter. Return something overdue. You think of the library card now pressed flat in your pocket, still warm against your leg. You think of all the conversations, apologies, questions, and memories that have lived in the backrooms of your mind, unread, unspoken, collecting late fees in silence. Slowly you turn. The speaker is, well, it's hard to say. Their shape is humanoid, draped in layers of silk-like fabric that moves on its own, faintly reflecting the shimmer of unseen lanterns. You can't make out a face, only a suggestion of features as though they're being remembered rather than seen. A soft glow rests where their chest would be, pulsing in time with your breath. Or is it theirs? They carry no books. Only a satchel, old leather worn to velvet at the edges. It hangs quietly at their side like a pouch full of hourglasses that forgot how to fall. You speak. Your voice feels like it's been sitting in the back of your throat since childhood. What am I supposed to return? The figure tilts gently and responds. Only what you still carry. They raise one hand. Long, graceful fingers, far too many knuckles. They don't touch you exactly. But you feel it anyway. A warmth in your palm, you look down. A slip of paper has appeared there, folded once, creased neatly. You open it, it's a receipt. No dates, no titles, only 3 lines. Loaned, a memory of silence. Loaned, a kindness not shown. Loaned, a truth left unopened. At the bottom, a single instruction. Drop them into the return slot, should you wish to lighten your shelf. The librarian gestures to a brass chute embedded in the wall beside you, small, polished. The kind meant for old card catalogs and late-night regrets. You hesitate. Will I forget? You ask. No, they reply softly. You will remember differently. That answer frightens you more than a simple yes, but also less. But you've heard stories, of course, of places that take memories and give back edited versions. There's a Welsh folk tale about a river that runs beneath the hills, where those who drink from it forget their guilt, but also the lessons that shaped them. Villagers would visit after betrayals or tragedies, but no one who drank remembered how to avoid repeating them. Some believe it's why certain villages vanished entirely. Everyone forgot to be careful. You've always thought that tale was metaphorical. Now you're not so sure. Experts still wonder whether these legends stem from early understanding of trauma processing, how the mind reshapes pain to survive it, or whether perhaps there really were places where forgetting was a service, not a symptom. You step forward, paper in hand. The return slot watches. Yes, it watches, not with eyes, but with a sort of awareness that lives in objects long used and rarely thanked. You place the receipt at the edge, it twitches, and then without a sound it's gone, slipped away into the mechanics of a building that bends around emotion. You feel something shift inside you, not lighter, not heavier, just rearranged. You try to recall what was written on that slip of paper. You can't. But you don't feel the absence as a loss. You feel it like space, like a shelf just emptied, waiting. The librarian inclines their head, as if approving, and then turns, walking deeper into the corridor. You follow naturally. They lead you through a series of alcoves. No shelves here, just niches carved directly into the stone, each holding a single object. A pair of glasses with only one lens, a cracked teacup, a wristwatch with the second hand moving backward, a snow globe inside of which a miniature figure stands alone on a library step. You pause, look closer. The figure looks exactly like you. The librarian doesn't turn around, but they speak. Those are the items of deferred memory, things people were not ready to recall. You whisper, mine. Some you will find, others may find you. You glance back at the snow globe. The tiny you is waving now, very slowly. The corridor narrows again, then opens, suddenly, into an impossibly large rotunda. The floor is a map, not of Earth, not of stars, a map of moments. And the walls, books, finally, thousands, millions. Every shelf vibrates with low, ambient energy like the library is inhaling constantly and never exhaling. Each book glows faintly. No two the same, you approach one. The cover pulses gently when your hand nears. Its title is written in your own handwriting. The version of you who apologized that night. You pull it down, but it resists. Not locked, not forbidden, just not ready. The librarian speaks again. Some books require payment in experience. What does that mean? You must live what was not lived, even briefly, to read what was almost true. You place the book back. It hums a little sad. You wonder how many of these books belong to you, how many moments of almost lived possibilities you've stacked into the walls of this place. You wonder if everyone has a library like this. Maybe they do. Maybe they only find it when the clock strikes 3:07. You catch your reflection in the floor now, but it's slightly off. Not older, not younger, just a version of you that looks like this. The rotunda is vast, yet quiet, not with emptiness but with careful listening. You get the feeling that this library doesn't just house stories. It watches them, remembers them. It's memorizing you now, tracing your steps across the marble moment map like a bookmark slipping into place. You take a few more steps, feeling the hum of the books around you shift in pitch ever so slightly, like they're responding, like they're tuning themselves to you. And then, just ahead, you notice something that stops you. A single shelf set apart from the others, roped off with a velvet cord. On the cord hangs a small, faded placard. The index of things that never happened but still hurt. You blink, then laugh, quietly, because somehow that makes perfect sense here. Beyond the cord, the books are thin and uneven. Some bound in soft leather, others in cloth or even paper, but all worn, all used, all read. The first one you spot is labeled. The goodbye you practiced but never said. Another reads, the birthday you weren't invited to twice. You swallow this section. This one feels close, too close. These aren't ghost stories. These are phantoms, things you carried long after convincing yourself you didn't. You remember an old piece of folklore from South India, whispered by temple readers and rural dreamwalkers alike. It speaks of Netrikani, the third eye that doesn't open in the forehead, but in the heart. They say if you leave enough unsaid griefs locked behind it, they form a shadow self, one that lingers just behind mirrors and finishes your sentences wrong. You think of that sometimes when you forget what you were saying halfway through. Experts still debate whether such tales were metaphors for emotional repression or psychological personifications of trauma before language could contain it. Here, the Netrikani feels real. Every book on this shelf is an unopened eye. You reach out. The librarian's voice stops you. Careful, they whisper gently. Some wounds still bleed when read. You ask, can I check one out? They tilt their head again. You already did. You just haven't remembered doing it yet. You look down at your hand. Another slip of paper has appeared between your fingers. It reads, borrowed, the conversation where you forgave yourself. No due date. Just a gentle note at the bottom. When you are ready to believe it happened, it will. You feel the weight of those words, not heavy but steadying, like an anchor set in soft soil. You tuck the paper into your sleeve. You're not ready yet, but maybe you're closer than you thought. From deeper inside the rotunda, a subtle chime sounds. Not metallic, more like wind through reeds. It comes once, then again it's summoning something. Not you exactly, but someone or some version of you. You and the librarian follow the sound, weaving through shelves that begin to pulse as you pass like they recognize you. Maybe they do. Maybe each shelf is a part of you. Or maybe you're just borrowing someone else's path. The sound leads you to an alcove with no books at all. Just a mirror, tall, round, and faintly fogged like bathroom glass after a hot shower. At its base, a label carved into stone. Mirror 7, Reflection 3. Your chest tightens. The card in your pocket, see Mirror 7, Reflection 3. You step forward. The librarian stays behind. You stare into the glass, but you're not alone in it. There are three reflections, one in the foreground, you as you are now, one behind, older, calmer, holding something in their hand, a book, you think, and one between the two, blurred but unmistakably familiar, the version of you who stopped chasing what they loved, the version who grew small in safety instead of large in fear. That middle reflection watches you carefully. You raise a hand. All three raise theirs, but they're not in sync. Not quite. Your reflection hesitates. The older one smiles faintly. The middle one lowers their hand a second before you, and you understand. They're not you anymore. Not fully. They're shelved selves, pages you closed without realizing. And maybe, just maybe, this mirror is a chance to pick one back up. You step closer. The glass doesn't feel like glass. It feels like surface tension, like the skin of a dream you could enter if you breathe just right. Your breath fogs the surface, and in that fog words appear. You may choose one to carry with you. Only one may leave. You inhale slowly. What happens to the others? You ask aloud. The librarian answers from behind. They wait for another night, another 307. You think of all the versions of yourself you've let go, out of necessity, out of fear, out of love for others, or the lies you told to stay afloat. And you think of the one standing calmly in the back of the mirror, the one holding the book. What book are they reading? What story did they decide to live? You press your hand gently to the glass. The mirror ripples softly beneath your touch, but it doesn't break. Instead, a door appears beside it, plain, unmarked, unassuming. The librarian gestures toward it. That way. And as you step to it, you hear the first whisper again, not from the room, but from deep within. You've been overdue for a long, long time. You stand in front of the plain wooden door, the mirror's breath still clinging to your skin like mist. The doorknob is old brass, cool to the touch, worn smooth by the palms of visitors past, visitors who, like you, likely stood here wondering what version of themselves they were about to become. You don't look back at the mirror. Not because you aren't curious, but because something deep in your gut tells you the moment you do, the reflections will shift. And they'll keep shifting forever if you keep second-guessing. So you open the door. It doesn't creak. It exhales. And what you see beyond is a study, quiet, lived in, familiar. It's not grand. No spiraling libraries, no floating books or whispering shelves. Just a modest desk, a window with velvet curtains drawn aside, and a chair pulled back slightly as if someone just stood up and left for tea. The kind of room that only exists in dreams and quiet memory. You step in. The door closes behind you, not dramatically, just enough to say, "Be here now." You breathe in and freeze, because the scent in the air, that's your scent from your first apartment. The one with the cracked windowsill where the rain always found its way in. That smell of wet pages and late-night cereal and the incense you bought on a whim and never remembered to finish. This place, it's stitched from your memory. You cross to the desk. A journal lies open there, inked neatly in handwriting you used to practice before it got messy with age and worry. The entry is dated with today's date. Or what would be today outside the library. 3:07 a.m. entry 1. They finally let me write again. You blink, there's more. The walls hum when I remember. I think they like when I choose something, even if I regret it later. That's the trick, I think. Regret is fine. It means you picked. The handwriting matches yours, but you didn't write this. Or maybe you did in some future or forgotten thread of time. This library bends chronology like heat over pavement. You've already seen echoes of yourself tucked between spines. Still, seeing your own voice reflected this clearly unsettles you. You reach for the pen beside the journal. It lifts on its own and writes, "What will you leave behind tonight?" You hesitate, but only for a moment. Then write, "My need to always understand what I'm feeling before I'm allowed to feel it." The journal hums softly. The ink sinks into the page like soil drinking rain. Another sentence appears beneath it, not written by you. Good, now there's room. The curtains behind the desk flutter, though no breeze moves through the room. You turn toward the window, and outside is not night, it's memory, projected across the glass like a silent film. You see yourself, age 7, riding your bike too fast down a hill, the wind in your ears, the moment before the fall. Then you, age 16, saying goodbye at a train station, but the face of the person you're leaving is blurred. Then more recently, standing in a grocery store, staring at a can of soup for too long, lost in a thought you never finished, all playing out like moments asking to be reread. But you remember a curious piece of Slavic folklore, one not often translated. It tells of a village where every window showed not the outside world, but the moment in time the occupant most needed to make peace with. Residents were said to avoid windows entirely, afraid of what they might see. Some scholars interpret it as a tale of denial, others as a metaphor for radical acceptance. You wonder now if those windows were more literal than anyone realized. Experts still debate whether dream architecture, structures that reflect memory and mood, has a basis in lucid dreaming patterns or represents a deeper shared archetype of psychological spaces. You close your eyes. When you open them, the view has changed. Now it's the library again, but not the rotunda. It's a narrow hall with a single book resting at the far end. Open. Waiting, the journal writes again. Go there now. You leave the study, but not by the door you came in. There's another exit now beside the window, a thin slit of shadow stretching just wide enough for you to slip through if you trust it. You do. It smells like burnt matches and wet pine needles. You step through and find yourself in a hallway of whispered names, not words, just names, spoken constantly, softly by the very stone. You recognize a few: the kid you sat next to in 2nd grade, a coworker you never said goodbye to, someone you once loved who faded like a photograph left in sun. The hallway isn't haunted, it's remembering. You're walking through a registry of impact. Every name is someone who brushed against your life and changed you, just a little. The book at the end of the hall is already open when you arrive. Its pages flutter as you approach. And then stop. The left page shows a moment you'd forgotten. You, giving a stranger directions in the rain, thinking nothing of it. The right page reads, "They never forgot the kindness, and neither did the rain." You close the book, not because it's done, but because you're full for now. The moment you close the book, the hallway breathes. You don't hear it, you feel it. A subtle drawing inward, as if the library is pleased, or patient, or simply adjusting to the shape you're becoming. There's no door this time, just a soft push behind you like wind urging you forward. You follow it. The corridor shifts around you. Gone are the carved walls and whispering names. Now the space feels like it's made of velvet shadow, gentle, fluid, absorbing every footfall. The darkness here isn't frightening, it's calming, like being wrapped in ink and memory. Eventually, you emerge into a small antechamber, circular, lit by a single globe suspended in the air, casting dim golden light in slow, breathing pulses. A desk sits in the middle, and on it, a card, just one, unassuming, slightly yellowed. You step closer and the light brightens. The card reads, "Catalog access, index of the unwritten. Warning, pages may bind." You reach for it, but it floats away, hovering to your left like a curious moth. You follow. It leads you through a curtain made not of fabric but paper, layered, fluttering softly as you brush through it. And suddenly, you're in a chamber with no walls, no ceiling, just rows and rows of desks. Each one with a person writing, silently. Dozens of them, none look up, none acknowledge you. They write with intense, dreamlike focus. Some scratch madly, others compose slowly, delicately. Some pages are inked in gold, others charcoal, ash, even water. You can't tell if these people are alive or memories. You approach one, a man in a wool coat, mid-30s, glasses slipping down his nose, ink smudged on his fingers. He's writing a story you recognize. It's yours, a moment you lived, but not quite. In his version, you said what you should have said that night. The outcome changed, just slightly, enough that the next few pages unfold differently. He pauses his pen, sensing you. His head tilts up, but his face is yours, an older version, one who made different choices. He smiles sadly or kindly. You can't tell, then returns to writing. But you whisper, "What is this place?" From behind you, the librarian replies, "This is where the unwritten wait to be chosen." You turn, they've returned, more solid now. Their robes have settled into something resembling a scholar's coat, still undefined but warmer somehow, as if they've decided to be more real for your sake. You ask, "Who are they?" They answer, "Other versions, unlived selves. Dreamers who visited briefly. Each left with one page, some returned." You look around, so many pages, so many paths. "Can I write one?" you ask. The librarian nods once. "If you do, it becomes part of you." You hesitate, then step toward an empty desk. A fresh sheet of parchment rests in front of you. A pen made from a feather you've never seen, long, inky, subtly humming like it remembers flight. You pick it up. It's warm. You close your eyes, let memory wash through you, and begin to write. "There was a night I almost told the truth, but I didn't. I smiled instead and walked away. This is what might have happened if I stayed." You keep writing, not for long, just a paragraph, a moment. The version of yourself that dared more, risked more, hoped more. You sign it, and the paper lifts itself, drifts toward a shelf that wasn't there before, slides itself between two other pages, and fades. The librarian exhales, a pleased sound maybe. They speak softly. Now you know how the unwritten shelves grow. You ask, "Can I come back?" They pause and say only, "If you remember how." But you recall a tale, maybe Russian, maybe Czech, of the whispering drafts, a story about winds that could carry unwritten thoughts to places where dreams became architecture. It was said that authors who never finished their stories sometimes dreamed entire cities, lived inside them, unaware they were fiction. Some believed this explained déjà vu. Others dismissed it as nonsense. Experts still wonder whether these stories represent early intuitive theories of alternate timelines or the deep subconscious work of memory restructuring. But here now, you believe. But the librarian gestures toward a doorway that wasn't there before. This one glows soft green like moss under moonlight. They don't follow. As you step through, you glance back once. The writing chamber remains hushed and infinite, still pulsing with possibilities, still welcoming more versions, still writing. You pass into a tunnel of gentle sound, faint chimes, wind through pages. The hallway curves upward now, spiraling toward what feels like breath and wakefulness. Something ahead glows warmly. Not light, memory, a moment calling you back, not to leave, to arrive. The tunnel widens with every step, and as you ascend, the air grows softer, not thinner, just quieter, like you've entered the hush before a snowfall. Each footfall on the curved stone gives off the faintest chime, as though memory itself has grown musical in this part of the library. You pause. Ahead, the warm glow sharpens into form, a door. Wooden again, but aged beautifully, with vines carved along its edges and a symbol you recognize now, two overlapping circles, faintly glowing at the center. You saw that symbol once in a dream you never finished. Or was it in a book you never opened? It doesn't matter, because the moment your eyes settle on it, the door recognizes you. It opens with a sigh. The space beyond is unlike anything you've seen in the library so far. It's not a room, not exactly. It's a grove, a small circular clearing surrounded by bookshelves grown like trees. Their trunks twist upward and outward, leaves formed not of foliage but paper, pages fluttering gently in a wind you can't feel. The sky overhead is dust-colored and soft, dotted with stars that pulse to a rhythm you feel more than hear. In the center of the grove, a pool of water rests, still, reflective. A single bench sits beside it, and on that bench, you, or at least a version of you, older maybe, not in years but in expression, you seem content there, Whole, they look up as you approach, smile and say nothing, because they know you've come to listen, not speak. You sit beside them. The two of you gaze into the pool. It doesn't reflect your face, it reflects your choices. Moments you lived played across its surface like gentle waves carrying stories to shore. There you are, deciding not to move away. There, choosing to call someone when it mattered. There, taking a different job, one that gave you peace instead of prestige. Each version of your life plays out like a chapter you forgot you wrote. And then the pool stills, goes dark, and a single sentence appears, written across the surface in light. Are you ready to leave something behind? You inhale, feel the silence of the grove fold around you, then nod. From behind the bench, a box rises, small, ornate, lined with velvet and brass. You open it. Inside, a quill, a scroll, and a key. The scroll is blank, but you know what it wants. You pick up the quill, and on the parchment you write, "Tonight, I leave behind the part of me that waits for permission to grow." The ink glows softly, then sinks in. The scroll rolls itself shut and vanishes into mist. The key hums, you take it. The version of you beside the pool stands, nods, and fades into the shelves. Not vanished, just shelved. But you remember hearing once, maybe from a stranger on a train or maybe whispered in a dream, that in certain Brazilian tribes memories are stored in items. Feathers, stones, even bones. When someone dies, their family collects the objects, not to keep, but to return to the earth, so their stories can become part of the land again. Experts still wonder whether this ritual originated as practical grief processing or a deeper spiritual metaphor for legacy and continuity. Here, in this grove, it feels less metaphor and more map, a way through the labyrinth of self, a catalog of becoming. You turn back toward the path you came from, only now it rises sharply, a gentle incline lined with lanterns, each flickering brighter as you near. The key in your hand warms. And then there it is, a final door, simple, with a brass plate that reads, "To wakefulness." You stand before it, key poised, and hesitate, not out of fear but out of gratitude, for the silence that listened, for the selves you met, for the stories you never wrote but now understand. You place your palm against the door. It hums back low and steady, a sound like a lullaby reversed. The key turns easily. The door opens onto a night sky. Stars shimmer above, but below you see a quiet street. When you recognize it's the road you took here, except now it's empty. No flyer, no strange door, just home, just night, just stillness. You step outside. The air is cool, like breath held too long. Your phone buzzes in your pocket. You glance down, 3:08 a.m. And for a moment, just a moment, you swear you hear paper flutter in the trees behind you, like the pages are waving goodbye. You stand still on the quiet street, your hand still lightly resting on the door that brought you back. But it's gone now, faded into brick or fog or memory. You're not sure which. The wall is smooth. The vines that once framed the door are just cracks in concrete now, reaching upward like forgotten veins. You inhale. The air smells of rain that hasn't fallen yet. You look around. Everything is exactly where it should be, except somehow, subtly, the world feels deeper. As though the street you've known forever has sprouted a second layer just beneath its surface. A whisper of meaning in every window, every flickering street lamp. You walk, slowly, listening to your own footsteps like they belong to someone else. And then, just ahead, you spot it. A lamppost, wrapped in paper, taped hastily. You move closer. It's not a missing pet, not an event flyer, just a single phrase typed in a strange, crisp serif. "We remember the ones who wandered." No contact, no image, just those words, and a drawing beneath, small, nearly invisible unless you're inches away. The symbol, 2 overlapping circles. You run your fingers over the paper. It's warm, as though printed just moments ago. And you wonder how many others have walked out at 3:08 a.m. with that same key still pulsing in their palm. How many turned back? How many forgot? How many never even knew they left? You remember a peculiar tale told in the rainforests of Papua New Guinea, about a library of the rain. It is said that when a person dreams during a storm, the water remembers for them. And if they forget their dream upon waking, the rain keeps it stored in the soil until their footsteps return to that patch of ground. No one knows if it's true, but the idea that memory lives somewhere, waiting for the mind to soften, is oddly comforting. Experts still wonder whether oral cultures developed these stories to explain déjà vu or to give loss a resting place. You walk on. The city is hushed. Even the distant dogs aren't barking. Only the sound of leaves scraping gently along gutters and the occasional flicker of a bulb above a doorway remind you the world hasn't paused entirely. You pull out your phone again. 3:09 a.m. Just minutes ago, you were sitting beside a version of yourself in a grove of memory. Now you're here, but not just here. Something followed you. Not a being, not a presence, a stillness, a knowing. But you reach the edge of your neighborhood where the streets narrow and slope downward toward the park. A light fog kisses the grass. You cross a familiar bench, the one you never sit on because it's always damp. Tonight it's dry, you sit, and for a moment the world holds its breath. From the shadows, a shape emerges, but not a frightening one, just a person walking a dog. Except, you know that person. You haven't seen them in years. A friend from school. One who moved away suddenly. No goodbye, no explanation, just gone. They walk right past you, glance your way, then pause, their brow furrows. You look familiar, they say slowly. You nod, they squint. Wait, didn't we? They trail off, unsure what they were going to say. You smile. Maybe we read the same story. They chuckle, uncertain. Yeah, maybe. The dog sniffs the ground, uninterested in fate. The friend shrugs, offers a wave, and continues on. But you don't move, because your phone buzzes again. No notification, just a glitch, a flicker. The time now reads 3:07 a.m. You blink, check again. 3:07 a.m. Still. You touch the screen. It warms under your fingers and then vibrates gently. One message appears from no sender, just a line. Would you like to re-enter the story? You stare at the message. Would you like to re-enter the story? There's no reply button. No keyboard pops up. Just the question glowing faintly against the black screen like an eye half-lidded in sleep. The air stills. Even the fog seems to hold its breath. You wait, wondering if the message will disappear on its own, if it was some artifact of the dream logic you've wandered through tonight. But no, it lingers, present, persistent. And you begin to understand. This library doesn't wait to be found. It offers itself to those who have already opened its pages. You pocket your phone. The bench beneath you creaks slightly like it remembers being a tree. And then from somewhere very near and yet impossible to pinpoint, a sound. Paper, fluttering just for a second. Then silence. You look around. No wind, no litter. But something catches your eye. A shadow at the base of a lamp, squared off, angular. You walk over slowly, knowing what you'll find before you even bend down. A book, small, bound in charcoal gray. No title, no author. Just a circular symbol etched faintly into the cover, two interlocking rings pulsing softly like breath. You reach down, expecting resistance. But the moment your fingers graze the surface, the book opens itself. And you're no longer on the street. You're in a hallway, not the one you came from. This one is narrower, more organic. The walls shimmer like pressed leaves. The ceiling bends overhead like the underside of a mushroom cap, spongy, soft, damp with memory. It smells of loam and time. A candle flickers ahead. You move toward it. Each step lands soundlessly. This place is quieter than the others, but not empty. You feel watched, not in a sinister way, but in a deeply personal one, like a journal reading you back. You pass a door on your left. It bears your initials, carved by a hand that knew your loops and slants perfectly. It's locked, but beside it hangs a note, tacked loosely to the frame. This chapter is being edited. Please return later. You keep walking. Around the next corner, you find something unexpected, a staircase spiraling upward. Unlike the descent you took earlier, this one feels light, a lifting. Each step pushes against your soles with a gentle buoyancy, as if the stairs themselves want you to rise. At the top, a platform, and on it, a long reading table. Candles flicker at either end, and across from you sits your shadow, not a metaphor. Your literal shadow, risen and made three-dimensional. It looks like you, but darker around the edges. Not evil, just made of everything you've left unsaid. It gestures to the seat across from it. You sit. The candle between you flutters. Your shadow opens a book. The page reads. Let's review what you never said. You brace yourself. The pages turn on their own. Each one contains a sentence, a phrase, a truth you buried. I'm scared I'm not enough. I wish you had stayed. I don't know how to want gently. I only laughed because I didn't know what else to do. They aren't accusations, they're recollections. Written plainly, softly, your shadow waits. You reach for the pen beside you. And beneath each line, you write a simple response. But I showed up anyway. But I became someone else because of it. But I'm learning. But I'm here now. When you finish, the shadow closes the book, and for the first time it smiles, then fades, not into the dark, into the page. You sit quietly as the candle burns lower. This chapter was never about haunting. It was about holding. You lean back, eyes closed. And remember a Japanese legend, not a popular one, but passed from grandmother to child in seaside towns. The story of the Kuchiburu no Mori, or Forest of Lips. They say the trees there carry the words you never said, and if you walk among them long enough, you'll hear your own voice echoing in the leaves, but only if you're ready to listen. Experts still discuss whether this tale was born from grief, or whether the forests truly do whisper back to those who ask gently enough. Here, in this paper-laced place between self and story, you believe it more than ever. The stairs behind you begin to dissolve. Time to move forward. You pick up the book your shadow left behind. It's heavier now. Bound with your truths, you don't carry it, it carries you. You cradle the book as you walk, its cover warm like a hand held too long. It pulses faintly, not in rhythm with your heartbeat, but with something older. A deeper cadence, like the pacing of pages being turned far below, deep in the library's unseen vaults. The hallway ahead is different now. The walls are stitched with thin threads of gold, winding like veins through parchment. You run your fingers along one and the thread hums a note, soft, low, like a cello string plucked in a distant room. As you move, each thread you pass emits a different tone. It's music in a way, a song of paths crossed and stories intertwined. You pause at a doorway marked only with the number 6. There's no handle, just a page nailed to the door. It reads, "The chapter you forgot you promised yourself." You hesitate, then push the door gently. It swings inward, and what lies beyond is unsettlingly ordinary. A living room, yours, but not quite. Furnishings you recognize, books stacked the same way you once arranged them in your first apartment. A photo on the mantle of someone you loved once, smiling in a way you never saw in real life. A coat on the rack you forgot you even owned. This is your life, if you had stayed, if you hadn't left that city, if you'd taken that call, if you'd said yes instead of "I'll think about it." It hits you like wind, gentle, chilling. You step inside. The air smells like spring, the kind that follows a heavy rain. The scent of clean wood, blooming things, unopened windows. The television is on. No sound, just flickering images of a life being lived. Yours and not yours. You sit on the couch. It's warm still, lived in. The book in your lap flips open. A new page reveals itself, written across it. You are allowed to grieve the versions of yourself you didn't become. The words ripple outward. You close your eyes and let that truth settle. You remember a haunting folktale from Mongolia about the Zirkin Nam, or Heart's Library. Elders would say that every unspoken desire carved a wordless book inside a person's chest, and only those who sat quietly enough, away from firelight, away from questions, could ever read it. Some said shamans could hear the pages rustle when someone slept beside regret. You always thought it was poetic exaggeration. Now, you're not so sure. Experts still examine whether such tales were early metaphors for emotional intuition or collective memory. You rise from the couch. The room flickers, not as if it's fading, but as if it's saying goodbye. The version of you in the photo seems to smile a little wider. You whisper to the air, "Thank you." The door opens again. The hallway returns, you step through. Now the walls are glass. Behind them, more stories, but these aren't books. They're scenes, still images frozen in time, moments from lives not your own. A girl pressing a note into a hollow tree. A man laughing under a flickering gaslight, eyes wide with wonder. An old woman climbing a staircase that curves toward starlight. You walk slowly, taking them in, feeling your breath sync with theirs. And then one image arrests you. You, at a typewriter, but not typing, crying, one hand over your face, the other resting on a blank sheet. Below the image, a caption. "The night you didn't write." Your throat tightens. You remember that night, how everything felt too loud, too uncertain, how silence seemed safer than failure. The book in your hands rustles. The page writes itself. Even unwritten words wait patiently. You smile because somehow you know. That version of you kept the page. Even blank, it was still part of the story. The hallway ends at a spiral staircase. This one is neither up nor down. It loops, horizontally, like a helix of memory and motion. You step onto the first stair, and the moment you do, the world shifts. You feel every moment tonight settle in your bones like dust on shelves. You walk. The walls turn from glass to smoke, to stars, to ink, and finally, to stillness. At the end of the spiral, a bench, one final one, wooden, worn, carved along the top rail. This is where you pause, not end. You sit, breathe, and the book in your lap closes itself. No lock, no clasp, just a quiet finality, a page well read, a story gently shelved. You sit on the bench for a while, maybe minutes, maybe hours. Time in this place has lost its need to perform, it simply is. It drapes itself around you like a worn shawl, comforting, lived in, humming with the faint scent of ink and old pine. The book remains closed on your lap, warm, breathing almost, not in a literal way, but in the way that certain memories breathe when they resurface, quietly, reverently, not wishing to startle you. You run your fingers along its spine. No title, but you know what's inside, because it's you, not all of you, not yet, but enough to carry. You look ahead. The air begins to shimmer, shapes emerge from the fog, a corridor narrower than the last, dimly lit by wall sconces that flicker with a soft blue flame. You rise, the bench sighing as if relieved of its weight. You walk. The book tucks itself beneath your arm, no longer a burden but a companion. This corridor is colder, not in temperature but tone. You pass alcoves that seem to lean inward, not maliciously, just curious. One holds a child's drawing scrawled in crayon, a house, a stick figure family, a bright sun in the corner. You feel a tug in your chest. Another alcove displays a single ballet slipper, tiny, frayed at the edges. The air around it smells of chalk and forgotten applause. You keep walking. Each memory here is not yours, but it feels like it could be. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the library shows you not just who you are, but who you're capable of understanding. You reach a fork, 2 passages above the left. Return to wakefulness. Above the right. Remain and remember more. You hesitate, not because you're unsure, but because the choice is real. The right passage pulses softly like a heartbeat underground. It promises more stories, more pages, more selves. The left, stillness. The world you came from, unwritten mornings, mundane afternoons, the comfort of forgetting. You step toward the left and pause, because from the right tunnel you hear your name, not shouted, whispered, by someone who knows you, but not from this life. You remember a myth told by elderly women in the lowlands of Peru about Los Caminos' silence or the quiet roads. It was said that at crossroads in dreams, spirits of alternate selves sometimes lingered, waiting to offer guidance or mischief. If you answered their call, they would share one memory in exchange for one you forgot. It was a warning, of course, but also an invitation. Experts still speculate whether such stories reflect early intuitions of quantum theory or simply serve to explain our collective longing to be more than one person. You smile faintly, because you don't need to answer. The library already knows your choice. You take a final look down the right-hand path, bow your head slightly, and whisper, "Another night." Then turn left. The tunnel narrows, softens, a doorway appears, wooden, familiar. At its center, a brass plate engraved with the words, "Exit but carry what matters." You reach for the handle. The book in your arm dissolves into light, not lost, just shelved. Inside you now, the doorknob turns easily. You step through and find yourself standing on the same street, same fog, same silence, but the sky is lighter now. Hints of blue stretch along the horizon. Morning, somehow. Your phone buzzes. 3:07 a.m. Still. Always. But you're not confused anymore. You understand now. 3:07 isn't a time. It's an invitation. A doorway. A gentle chime in the stillest part of night asking, "Are you ready to see yourself again?" And tonight, you said yes. You begin walking home. The world slowly returns. A leaf tumbles past. A car hums quietly in the distance. The faintest scent of baking bread drifts from a far-off kitchen window. You smile, because everything is the same. And everything is different. In your pocket, a slip of paper. You pull it out, blank, but when you breathe over it, words appear. You were here, you remembered, that's enough. You tuck it back, not as a keepsake, but as proof that once at 3:07 a.m. you wandered a library of forgotten selves and returned, whole. Your footsteps echo gently as you turn down your street, soft echoes as if the ground is remembering you now. Not just your weight, but your path, your choices, the shift in your breath since returning from somewhere few ever find and even fewer remember. The world feels thinner now in a way that's oddly comforting. You glance up. Clouds stretch across the sky like brushed velvet. The stars are dimming, fading into the approach of morning. But for a few minutes more, the darkness lingers, just enough to remind you where you've been. A street lamp flickers once above you, then stays lit. You stop under its light and close your eyes. Listen. You don't hear whispers, you don't hear pages, but you do hear your breath. Calm, grounded, real. You start walking again, past the neighbor's crooked fence, past the oak tree with initials you didn't carve but always meant to, past the bakery that opens too early, where the owner always wears a knit cap and forgets your name but not your usual order. Familiar places, but tonight they feel different, like you're reading them in a new language, one you forgot you spoke. As you near your door, you notice something curious. The doormat has been turned, not by wind, not by accident. Placed deliberately backward as if reminding you, entry and exit are sometimes the same thing. You flip it back with a faint smile, unlock the door, step inside. The house is quiet. You leave the lights off. Let the dim pre-dawn settle around you like a cloak. On your kitchen table, a note. You don't remember leaving one. It's written in your handwriting but cleaner, like you took your time. The message is short. You made it out. You're still inside, write accordingly. You fold it once, slide it into the back of your journal. You'll write later. For now, you just want to be. You pour yourself a glass of water, sit in the chair by the window, watch the sky brighten. And for the briefest moment, you see it again, far away, beyond the rooftops. A faint outline, just a door, standing where no door should be, only for a second. Then it's gone, but that's all you needed. You remember a tale from the Sami people of northern Scandinavia, about older, subterranean folk said to mirror the lives of surface dwellers. Each person was believed to have a double below, living a parallel story. Sometimes, at twilight, a wanderer would hear faint footsteps beside their own, echoing just slightly out of sync. If they turned too fast, the Ulda would vanish. But if they turn slow, they might catch a glimpse and be changed forever. You think of that now, and you wonder if maybe you weren't in the library alone. Maybe some part of you followed, or led, or watched from just behind a mirrored page. Experts still argue whether these tales stem from cultural caution, psychological archetypes, or something older that knows when we listen. But you don't feel haunted, you feel annotated, as though your story now contains a few more footnotes, a few more alternate paragraphs gently bracketed in the margins. You're still you, but also you plus. You set the glass down, stretch, and smile. You'll sleep soon, but not out of exhaustion, out of arrival. Somewhere, behind a wall, you'll never find again unless it lets you. A book closes, a quill sets itself down, a candle gutters out. And the librarian smiles, filing your page among the others. The library waits, quietly, patiently, for another 307, for another name, for another version ready to be read. Sleep does eventually come. Not the heavy kind that drags you down into dreams thick with noise, but something quieter. A sleep that feels like slipping into warm ink, like a page being turned gently in a dim room. You dream, but differently now. No chaos, no running, no falling, just images. A lantern swinging softly in a corridor of fog. A hand, your hand, reaching out for a book whose title shifts as you read it. A door with no frame floating in darkness, and the familiar warmth of recognition as it creaks open again. But when you wake, the memory of the dream is already fading. Not disappearing, just shelving itself. Somewhere inside, you stretch, eyes blinking against the early light. The clock on your phone reads 6:22 a.m. Time again has returned to its linear habits. The ordinary world has reassembled itself outside your window, birds, delivery vans, the distant hum of a city warming up. You wonder if anyone else woke up feeling filed, rewritten, gently. You wonder if they'd remember even if they did. You pull your notebook closer, flip to a blank page, and begin to write. Not about the library, not directly. You write about a bench, a hallway, a page that asked you to choose. You don't need to be accurate, just honest. And with each line, something inside you eases, not releases, but rests. Later, as you go about your day, small things begin to hum with resonance. The spine of a book on your shelf bends slightly toward you. A stranger in a cafe drops a paper with a familiar symbol, 2 circles, gently overlapping. You bend to return it, but they wave it off, distracted. When you turn it over, it's blank. You keep it anyway. It feels like it's waiting to be written on. At dusk, walking home, you hear a chime, soft from nowhere, from inside. You pause beneath a street lamp, the light flickers, and for a moment you feel something open nearby. No door, just the possibility of one. You smile, keep walking. You're not trying to find the library again. Not yet. It will find you when it's ready. When 307 returns, because it always does. It isn't a time, it's a question, a whisper. Are you ready for the next page? And when it comes, you'll know where to look. Days pass, and though the rhythm of your life resumes, keys in locks, mugs clinking softly in the morning, messages blinking in and out of relevance, you remain changed. Not outwardly. No one would guess. But within, you've begun to notice the library's fingerprints on everything. Like how some shadows now bend just slightly the wrong way around certain corners. How you catch yourself staring at door frames, wondering whether they've always been that exact height. How, in quiet moments, the spine of your journal hums when you reach for it, like it's waiting. One afternoon, you find a folded note in your coat pocket. You didn't put it there, but the handwriting is yours. It says, "Next time, ask about the echo shelf." No signature, no explanation, just that. You stare at it for a while, then slip it into a drawer. Later, you'll move it to the pages of your notebook, nestled between journal entries and loose thoughts that no longer feel random. You don't remember writing the note, but you don't doubt that you did. The dreams return, subtle, guided. You find yourself walking halls that feel like old friends. You hear names whispered that you've almost forgotten, friends from childhood, teachers from early years, even the version of yourself you once tried hard to impress. In one dream, you follow your own laughter down a corridor and discover a room full of paintings. Each one is you, but different. One wears clothes you've never owned. One smiles with a confidence you've only recently grown into. One weeps. And though you want to turn away, you don't, because now you understand. All of them are true. You remember an old story told by herders in the Moroccan Atlas of a place called Beit al-Dikriyat, the House of Remembering. They believed that memories had weight, and once too many gathered in one place, they congealed into a location, a hidden valley, a wind-bent cave, a doorway between moments. It was said that if you entered with one question, you would leave with 3 better ones. Experts still debate whether these were metaphors for aging or for spiritual architecture shaped by emotional topography. The library, you realize, is every Beit al-Dikriyat, every quiet place where memory chooses to gather, and every moment you notice it. That's the chime, the whisper, the open page. One morning, you wake with ink on your fingertips. Faint, faded, you didn't write anything before bed, but there it is. The gentle smudge of black between your thumb and forefinger, you wash it away, or try to. Some of it lingers, you smile, it's becoming clear. Once the library knows you, it keeps knowing you. You're part of the collection now. Filed, yes, but never closed. It's raining one night. You find yourself walking aimlessly, no destination. Just the motion of boots on wet pavement and the hiss of passing cars. You pause under a tree where the wind doesn't quite reach you. And there, tacked to the trunk with a thumbtack rusted at the edges. A flyer just like before. No name, no address, just a time, 3:07 a.m. And below it a sentence. This time bring a question. But you don't take the flyer. You don't need to. It's already burned into you quietly. Like a watermark beneath your thoughts. You head home, your steps lighter. This isn't an ending, not even close, just an invitation again. And you already know your question. You've been living toward it for some time now. The paper waits. The ink is warm, the shelves are dusted, and the librarian, smiling, somewhere, just on the other side of the story. You begin counting days in a quiet, subconscious way, not by numbers, but by how close the air feels to turning. Some mornings you wake before the alarm and stare at the ceiling, sure that something just called your name. You hear no sound, but the absence has shape, like a pause between pages. And you know, another 3:07 is drawing near. You start carrying a notebook again, not for ideas or plans, but for questions, real ones. What version of me am I afraid to meet? When did I stop asking for wonder? Which silence in my life is actually a door? The questions grow slowly, like vines, intertwining with each other, winding around the edge of your thoughts. And one night when you flip through the pages, you notice something odd. A new question, written in ink you didn't use. What story have you been avoiding? It's in your handwriting, but older. And you feel something inside you stir, because you know the answer, but not how to write it, not yet. That week the world becomes more translucent. Street signs shimmer strangely in peripheral vision. The dog down the street stares at your front door for 10 minutes, tail wagging at something. A coworker says your name twice in the same sentence, once in the middle, once at the end, as if you disappeared in between. You begin seeing symbols again. 2 circles on a cafe napkin, etched into a fogged-up window, drawn in condensation on a bus window, then vanishing before you blink. The library isn't calling, it's reminding. You're already on your way. One night you step outside around 3:00 a.m. You don't know why, not really, but the air feels expectant. A mist rolls low across the pavement like silk under candlelight. And then at exactly 3:07 your phone buzzes. No caller, no notification, just a message. This way. You lift your eyes. They're across the street where the fence ends and the alley begins light. Faint, amber, like the glow of old lamps in high halls. You cross. You expect a door. Instead you find a stairwell, half hidden behind ivy and brick. You descend. 1 step, 2, 3, the world goes quiet. And when you reach the bottom, a corridor yawns open. Paper dust hangs in the air like pollen. Lanterns line the walls again. And in the center of the hallway, a desk. The librarian is waiting, this time more visible. They wear a coat that flickers with text, sentences drifting slowly across the fabric, too faint to read but somehow familiar. They offer you a nod and gesture to a chair. You sit. They slide a book across the desk. Your name is etched into the spine. No hesitation this time. You open it. The first page reads. You've returned with a question. You nod, you whisper. What would I be if I forgave myself sooner? The librarian smiles. Their eyes flicker like candlelight, and the room begins to change. You remember hearing once from an old man in a quiet bookstore that certain libraries have gravity, not physical, but emotional. You walk in heavier than when you leave. He never said where he heard it, only that it was true. And now, as the walls open around you, revealing new shelves, you feel it too. You're not being tested here. You're being trusted with memory, with possibility, with the task of choosing again. The librarian stands, gestures for you to follow. You do, this time without question, because the story you avoided, it's finally ready to meet you. The corridor stretches ahead like a breath held too long. No turns, no branches. Just a single path lined with flickering sconces and the quiet hush of stories preparing themselves to be read. You follow the librarian without speaking. You no longer need to. They lead you to a chamber you've never seen before. It's not grand, not sacred. It's familiar. Familiar in the way a dream feels like home just before you wake. The walls are lined with mirrors, but these aren't like the reflection room mirrors from earlier. These are dull, fogged, rippling faintly as if filled with memory instead of glass. The librarian gestures to the center of the room. A single chair. You sit. Before you, one mirror begins to clear. And there, slowly, softly, you see it. A memory you've never wanted to revisit. You at a kitchen table, older than a child, younger than wise. Hands wrapped around a cup you don't drink from. Across from you, a person. Blurry but present, they're speaking. And you say nothing. The scene stretches long, and then it resets. The librarian whispers behind you. This is where the story forked. But you remember the moment now. Not the date, not even their name, but the feeling. A conversation you dodged, one that could have changed things. Instead, you chose silence, not out of malice, but fear, confusion. A hope that time would speak for you. It didn't, it rarely does. The mirror ripples again, and now you see a second version, you again, but this time you speak, just a sentence, a truth, small, vulnerable, and everything shifts. Not dramatically, not like a movie, but quietly. Their shoulders soften. Their hand moves an inch closer to yours, a nod, a breath, and you see the story that could have been. The version you chose not to write, until now. The librarian places a book in your lap. The title is simple. What I Almost Said. You open it. The pages write themselves, line by line. A letter you never sent. A goodbye you left open-ended. An apology you forgot to offer, then convinced yourself was no longer needed. You read, and with each line, the fog in the mirrors lifts. Behind you, the librarian says gently, "Some shelves require permission. You've just granted it." But you close the book. It doesn't vanish. Instead, it becomes lighter, smaller, until it fits neatly into your coat pocket. Not a burden, a guide. You rise. The librarian leads you to another door. Above it, etched in fine copper, "Memory accepted." You walk through. On the other side, a new corridor, this one brighter. The walls are made of handwritten pages, thousands of them. They flutter softly as you pass. You recognize some of the words, phrases from old dreams, lines you whispered once in sleep and never remembered upon waking. A poem you tried to write when you were 12. A list of fears you never admitted to anyone. All here, all alive. You pause at one page. Your name is written at the top. Beneath it, I was always more than what I said. You run a finger beneath the line, it shivers, and the wall ahead opens, not dramatically, just enough you step through. Now you're in a circular room with no ceiling. The sky above is ink dark. Stars swim through it like silver fish. In the center, a fountain, but not of water, of pages. Endless parchment rising in a spiral, falling gently into the basin. Each one blank, waiting. A pedestal stands nearby. A pen rests on top. You look to the librarian, they nod, you take the pen, and write. I forgive the version of myself who hesitated. The moment the ink touches the page, the fountain stills, and then releases a soft breeze, warm like breath on the back of your neck. The pages disperse, lift, carry your words upward, outward, somewhere beyond. You remember a tale told by an old poet from Morocco who once said the stars were made of unwritten letters, stories offered too late or truths whispered only in death. That when you feel the sky watching you, it's not to judge, it's to listen, to finally receive. Experts still wonder whether those stories arose from ancient grief practices, or if perhaps the stars do record more than light. You place the pen down, the fountain goes still. And the librarian, now fading softly around the edges, speaks one final time. You've written enough for tonight. You nod and begin the walk back. The walk back is unlike the one that brought you here, not because the walls have changed, but because you have. You move with a slowness that feels earned, not sluggish, reverent, like every step forward honors the story you've just told, or maybe the one you've finally stopped avoiding. The librarian no longer walks beside you, but you can still feel them. Their presence now exists like the hum of old radiators or the faint ink smell of well-loved books, invisible but undeniable. The corridor narrows. The lanterns fade to candlelight. The air grows quiet like the world is holding its breath to let you pass. You reach a small wooden landing, and in the center, of course, a door. Not new, not grand, just a door, simple, waiting. Etched into the wood in that same fine serif. To self. No time stamp, no warning, no riddles, just that. You touch the handle, it's warm. And for a moment you hesitate, not out of fear, but out of fondness. You've come to love this space. The weightless stillness of it, the echoes, the pages, the hues, but the library doesn't trap, it releases. Only after it's ready, only after you are. You turn the handle. The door opens with the sound of a page being turned gently, deliberately. And just like that, you're back, not waking exactly, but returned. Standing in your home, the light of early dawn threading its way across the floor like gold unraveling. The air smells like coffee and possibility. You glance around. Everything is where you left it. And yet, everything feels filed slightly more correctly, like a drawer that finally closes flat. You breathe in. The book in your pocket is gone, but not forgotten. It's in you now. You make tea. Write a single line in your journal. I returned lighter. Then close it, leave it on the table, let it rest. The day unfolds gently. You walk with more attention, speak with more patience. When someone interrupts you, you don't flinch. When you forget what you meant to say, you smile instead of curse. You notice a feather on the sidewalk and bend to pick it up, not because it's special, but because you are. You sit on a park bench later that afternoon, and beside you, carved into the wood, 2 circles, interlocked. You don't gasp, you don't wonder if anyone else sees it. You just trace it softly with your thumb, and say quietly, I'll be back. But that night, as you drift toward sleep, you don't dream of corridors. Not yet. Instead, you dream of your own voice, clear, steady, reading a story aloud to a listener who never speaks. A child, maybe, or a shadow, or just a you from long ago. And as your voice carries across the dark, you hear a page turn, then silence. Then softly, thank you. You remember an obscure legend from the marshlands of eastern China, of a scroll sealed in watertight bamboo, buried at the foot of a tree that blooms once every 25 years. The scroll, they say, contains the name of the person you are when no one else is watching. The story ends without telling you who buries the scroll. But tonight, you think you understand. Experts still argue whether this tale was metaphor, memory, or mercy. But you no longer need to argue. You just need to listen. The library will call again. It always does. When the silence grows dense. When the page inside you begins to flutter. When the clock, just for a moment, whispers. It's 3:07. In the days that follow, you begin to notice time differently. Not in hours or schedules, but in windows. Moments when everything around you seems to hush for no reason. No car engines, no footsteps, no scrolling sounds from your phone. These moments arrive like sudden fog, soft and full of pause. And each time your eyes are drawn to the corners of rooms, door frames, mirrors, books. As if something behind them is waiting patiently for you to turn your head just right. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But the stillness never rushes you. It simply waits. Because you've learned now, every pause is a door in disguise. On a quiet Thursday, you're standing in a bookstore, not looking for anything, just wandering. Your fingers trail across spines that lean together like tired shoulders. One book falls. You reach to catch it. You don't. But when you pick it up, you notice a slip of paper caught in the pages. A quote, typed. What is left unwritten will wait until you remember how to read it. No author, no page number, just that. You fold it, place it in your coat pocket, right where the book from the library used to rest. That night, your dreams return to the index room, the one filled with card drawers and floating shelves. But this time it's different. There's no guide, no librarian, just you and a key. You walk to one drawer, the metal is smooth, cold, familiar. You open it. Inside, one card, your name, a title. The day you chose to begin again, quietly. You smile because you remember that day. It wasn't marked by fireworks or sudden clarity, just a decision made gently. One step forward that nobody noticed. But you did. The card hums faintly. And then dissolves, as if saying you don't need to carry this anymore. It's already written in you. You wake with the taste of lavender on your tongue. You didn't drink tea before bed, but you know where it came from. And that knowledge feels like comfort, not a mystery. You open your journal, and on the first page, something new is written. Every story you live rewrites the ones you've survived. Not in your handwriting, but familiar. The same elegant serif, you nod. Then below it you write, I'm still here, let's keep going. You remember a story whispered in hushed tones from the eastern Mediterranean islands, of a sailor who found a bottle that hummed when he held it. Inside was no message, only a blank scroll. When he unrolled it, it filled with possibilities. Every voyage he could have taken, every storm he avoided, every harbor he missed. He wrote just one sentence before throwing it back into the sea. Choose again. Some say the scroll was never meant for him, but for someone later. Experts still wonder whether this tale reflects humanity's need to imagine second chances, or if some bottles do remember who opened them last. You've begun to leave notes for yourself, not instructions, not affirmations, just reminders on scraps, in margins. The version of me who forgave first still exists. The page turns when I do. Even silence belongs on the shelf. You hide them in books, in drawers. You'll find them later when you need them, or maybe someone else will. You go walking one night without meaning to. No destination, just street lamps and your breath fogging gently in the air. And in the window of a darkened bookstore, written backward across the glass, tonight is filing itself as a memory already. You don't go inside. You don't need to. You're already in the library, always have been. You were just waiting to learn how to read it. Somewhere far away, or maybe right behind your next thought. A clock ticks, 3:06, 3:06 in one breath, 3:06 in two, and then 3:07. Not a time, not a warning, not even a whisper. Just a page waiting. The next time it happens, it's subtle. You're pouring tea, watching the steam twist in lazy spirals toward the ceiling. You glance at the clock, 3:06 a.m. You don't flinch, you don't rush. You simply pour slower, breathe deeper, because you know now the library doesn't demand, it invites. And when the clock flickers once, that barely there electronic hiccup, and settles again on 3:07, you're ready. You close your eyes. Let your hand rest lightly on the counter, and the world folds. Not violently, not with spectacle, just the way a page turns when you weren't quite done reading, but know you'll return to that paragraph eventually. You open your eyes, and you're standing in a room with no ceiling and no floor, only shelves suspended in space. Books float past like jellyfish, trailing thin ribbons of light. Some are closed. Others drift open, their pages flipping gently as if carried by the breath of something benevolent and ancient. This place feels higher up. Not better, just closer to the center of something. The librarian is there, not cloaked, not obscured, just there, as real as your memory of their voice. They greet you with a nod, then hand you a small object, a compass. Its needle doesn't point north, it points inward. You walk. The shelves part before you like curtains. You pass a tome labeled "The Kindness You Forgot You Gave," and another, "The Moment You Became Someone's Safe Place." You pause before a particularly large volume. Heavy, worn, no title. You reach out. The book flips itself open. A gust of warm wind rushes through the pages, carrying scents, autumn leaves, old paper, the breath of someone you once kissed goodbye but never stopped loving. The story inside is one you don't remember living, but you feel it anyway, a parallel version, one where you stayed, one where you called, one where you let yourself be soft earlier than you thought safe. Tears prick your eyes, not from sadness, from recognition. This could have been real, and maybe in some way it still is. The librarian speaks softly behind you. Not all stories are about regret. Some are simply echoes. You continue forward. The compass hums in your palm. You enter a corridor made entirely of letters, thousands of them, hovering midair, suspended in slow drift. You reach out and they part around your fingers. You read fragments. "I meant to tell you. If only I had known then. This part of me still waits for you." They aren't addressed to you. Not exactly. They're for you, but not at you. Like the voice of the library itself, whispering all the things we say too late to the people we love too quietly. You let them pass through you, each word a stitch, repairing seams you didn't know were coming loose. You remember hearing once, from a woman who ran a used bookstore in Greece, that every book carried the memory of its reader. Not the story they read, but who they were when they read it. That some books are different the second time, not because they changed, but because you did. She called them mirror texts. You think of that now, as you reach the end of the corridor and find a table waiting. Upon it, a mirror. You expect to see yourself, but you don't. You see a desk, a lamp, a window, and a hand writing. It's your hand. Older maybe, calmer, the words being written. You can't quite make them out. But the intention is unmistakable. They're being written to you, from later. The librarian gestures. You reach forward and place your hand against the mirror. It ripples, and you hear just one sentence whispered back. "Keep writing, I'm waiting." You step away, the mirror fades, and ahead another door, this one smaller, child-sized. Painted with watercolors, scrawled in messy letters. "Things I didn't know, I needed to remember." You smile and crawl through. You crawl through the door like a memory slipping out of its own timeline. On the other side, the space is small, no taller than a child's bedroom, no wider than a story whispered between blankets. The walls are papered with dreams, not illustrations, but scenes drawn in crayon, chalk, and soft pencil smudges. You stand up slowly. The ceiling breathes. Yes, breathes. It rises and falls in time with your heartbeat, adjusting to the rhythm of your remembering. A mobile hangs overhead, made not of stars, but pages folded into shapes. A boat, a bird, a teacup, a window. They spin slowly, casting shifting shadows across the floor. In the center of the room, a small desk. Not ornate, not magical, just yours, or once was. You remember this desk, the one you had when you were 7. The one where you drew for hours, telling yourself stories about flying cities and invisible friends who never left. Sitting atop it, a stuffed bear, one ear torn, one button eye missing. You gasp softly, not because of fear, but because you remember how it smelled. And for a moment the library pauses around you, letting the scent reach your nose. Warm dust, worn cotton, the vague scent of apples and thyme. You don't cry, but you remember how to want to. The librarian does not enter this room, but their voice drifts in gently. This is the shelf of your firsts. You turn. The wall behind you has transformed into cubby-like compartments. Each contains an object softly lit from within. You approach. First one. A cracked cassette tape labeled in a child's handwriting. MYVOIS. You smile. You remember recording yourself singing into it, badly, boldly. You thought you sounded like magic. Next cubby. A Polaroid faded, slightly warped. A pet you forgot, a smile you hadn't seen in years. Another. A notebook with the first lie you ever wrote and believed. You flip to the page. I don't miss them. You close it gently and place it back. You sit at the small desk. It welcomes you like it never left. A crayon appears, not a pen, not a quill, just that waxy blue dulled from use. The desk holds a blank page, and for the first time in a long time you begin to draw, not well but fully. You draw a window. Behind it, a person waving. Is it you? You're not sure, but the crayon knows. You remember a tale from the Ainu people of northern Japan who say children are born with a thin ribbon tied between their hearts and the clouds. Over time, as they grow older and forget how to wonder, the ribbon frays. But if they can learn to speak to the wind again, the ribbon strengthens. You never knew what that meant, until now. Experts still argue whether this tale arose from animist belief systems, early cognitive development patterns, or if some ribbons simply remain invisible until the right story tugs them. Your drawing complete, the page curls at the edges. Not in fire, but in readiness. It folds itself into a boat, floats upward. Joins the others on the mobile. You watch it turn and feel anchored. For the first time in a long time, your earliest self is not a mystery or embarrassment or footnote. It's a foundation. You stand. The bear waves. Or maybe the candle flickered. Either way, you wave back, and the small door opens again. Time to leave the room. You crawl out, not smaller, but realigned. The hallway greets you like a page already bookmarked. And the librarian waits. They offer no words, only a nod, only the next passage. And this time as you walk, your own footsteps echo with story. Not fiction, not regret, but something new. Something that sounds like arrival. The passage ahead is unlike the others. It narrows, yes, but not with constraint, with purpose, like a funnel guiding you inward. The walls here are made of woven paper, some coarse and fibrous like handmade rice sheets, others thin as whispers, translucent enough for the candlelight behind them to glow through like veins of memory. Each step feels softer, less like walking, more like being carried. You begin to hear something, a low murmur. A breathless rhythm. As you draw closer, it resolves into voices. Dozens, maybe hundreds, but all speaking at the same tone, quiet, reverent, unfinished. You reach the end of the corridor and find yourself standing before an archway made not of stone, but letters, actual printed letters, strung together in midair like ivy. They flicker gently, cycling through alphabets, scripts, languages. Then they pause and settle on one line. Welcome to the Hall of Unshelved Memories. The room you enter isn't vast, it's deep. Books float in columns from floor to ceiling, not stacked, not shelved, suspended, turning slowly as if caught in a breeze of thought. You take a step, and one book descends to your level. It's bound in dark green velvet, gold-ink title. The Things You Almost Remembered. You open it, a single page. A moment, you in a car, music on low, crying so softly you convinced yourself it didn't count. You close the book, but the memory doesn't leave. It settles. like a coin dropped gently into water. Another book lowers. This one is bound in rough paper stitched with twine. Unspoken gratitudes. You open it and see scenes. A teacher's hand on your shoulder after a test. A friend covering for you without telling you they did. A stranger who returned your wallet untouched. You didn't thank them, not really, but the book has no resentment, only record. Each gratitude cataloged with care. You close it and whisper, "Thank you." The book hums softly, then floats upward. You remember a rare Tibetan tale of a library of winds, each gust believed to be a forgotten thought, circling the mountains until it found the person it belonged to. Some monks sat in silence for years, waiting for their wind to return. They called it Lungkire, the return of breath. Experts still debate whether such stories represent early metaphors for mindfulness, or if some winds truly carry more than dust. Here, in the Hall of Unshelved Memories, you understand. Because these books, they are wind finally finding paper, and you are the one who must decide if they stay drifting or finally rest. You continue walking. Books rise and fall around you, some glowing, some dim, depending on how near you step. Some try to open, eager. Some retreat, not quite ready. You approach a floating volume sealed in a ribbon. You reach out. It opens only slightly, and what you see inside makes your chest ache. A moment when you could have forgiven someone but didn't. The page begins to fade. You stop it with your hand. Whisper, "I might be ready now." The book shivers and rewrites itself, not erasing, updating. The librarian appears beside you, not looming, just companionable. They don't say anything, they don't need to. You know this now. The unshelved don't belong to the forgotten. They belong to the willing, willing to feel again, to revisit gently, to rewrite with kindness. You step to the center of the room. A pedestal rises. A book blank awaits you. The librarian hands you a pen. You write one sentence. "I no longer run from the things that remember me." The ink shines briefly, then sinks in. The pedestal lowers, and for a moment the entire hall stills, breathes, and shelves that weren't there before begin to form, curving upward, ready. You exit the hall slowly, not out of reluctance, out of respect. The books follow you with their gaze. But they don't call you back. They trust you now, to return when you're ready, or when the next memory grows wings. As you step out of the Hall of Unshelved Memories, the corridor dims, not with darkness, but with quiet, like walking into a room just after someone has left, the air still echoing with their presence. The librarian remains at your side, saying nothing, their footsteps a half-second behind yours. Their silence isn't empty. It's intentional, spacious, like a margin left on a page for a note you'll write later. The floor beneath you shifts subtly, becomes softer, warmer. Soon you're walking on parchment, actual parchment stitched together from overlapping sheets. Each one carries faint handwriting, faded but not gone. You don't stop to read. You feel the ink beneath your feet, promises made, secrets whispered, things once so important they needed to be written down. You wonder how many were yours. You wonder how many you'll never remember, but the pages do. Ahead, a soft glow forms, resolving into a narrow room, circular again, lined floor to ceiling with mirrors, but not the kind you've seen before. These mirrors don't reflect you. They reflect your voice. You step inside, and you hear it immediately. Words you've said in your life. Not famous words, not painful ones, just fragments. "I think I'll be okay." "I'm not sure, but I'll try." "Thank you." "Really?" Each phrase ripples across a mirror, then fades. The room glows gently with them, like candles flickering in time with your honesty. The librarian finally speaks. "This is the chamber of spoken truth." You look up. One mirror catches your eye. It holds a sentence you forgot you ever said. "I don't need to be understood to still exist fully." You exhale, because hearing it again feels like proof that even on days when you doubted everything, you were still writing yourself into the world. One mirror begins to vibrate. You step toward it. The glass clouds, then clarifies, and there you are on a park bench, rain falling softly. You're talking to someone, a friend, or a stranger, or maybe someone you were only meant to meet once, and you're saying something small but important. You're not broken. You're just carrying more than most. You forgot this, but the person didn't. Their face softens, they nod. You changed nothing grand that day, just help someone sit with their own story a little longer. The mirror fades, but the feeling stays. Another mirror glows faint blue, you approach. Inside, an argument, you, angry, words sharp, eyes tired. You see the moment where you could have paused. Instead, you said something that burned. The memory stings. You turn to the librarian. I can't take that one back. They nod. No, but you can shelve it, name it, let it rest. You face the mirror again, whisper. I was scared, and I didn't know how to soften in time. The mirror cracks, not from damage, from closure. The crack seals into a silver line like a healed scar. The reflection softens and fades. You remember a Sufi teaching, that each word we speak is a seed planted in someone else's soil. The teacher would say, the garden may bloom far from your sight, but you must still choose the seed with care. You've always liked that idea, but only now do you see its shape, because in this chamber, every truth became a vine, and you left more green in the world than you realized. Experts still wonder if these ancient metaphors shape moral philosophy, or if there are indeed spaces beyond time where our words continue to echo in kindness. You reach the center of the room. A single microphone rises from the floor, old-fashioned, warm to the touch. No one asks you to speak, but you do, not to impress, not to perform, just to say. I've carried stories I didn't know were mine. I've dropped some. I've rewritten others. I'm still reading myself. Your voice echoes gently, folds itself into the mirrors, and becomes another soft light. The librarian steps beside you, hands you a book. It's slim, titled simply, The Truth You Spoke When No One Was Listening. You hold it to your chest, and the room bows to you, not theatrically, but like a forest leaning slightly toward the wind. You bow back and walk forward, ready. The passage forward opens like a slow breath exhaled. It curves gently, guiding you upward through a corridor lined with soft lights suspended in glass jars, each glowing faintly like captured fireflies. The air is warmer here, tinged with lavender and something older, maybe cedar, maybe memory. Your steps fall in rhythm with a quiet pulsing, as though the library itself has a heartbeat now. You follow it, until you arrive, a new chamber. This one is small, intimate, no mirrors, no floating books, just a single pedestal in the center and atop it. A thick volume bound in soft gray cloth. There is no title on the cover, but you know it already. It's the book you felt with you since the beginning, the one that whispered along your ribs, curled itself behind your heartbeat, warmed your coat pocket. The one that carries you. The librarian appears, quieter than usual. Their robe has shifted again. Now it reflects your handwriting, small notes, margins, scribbles, circles around words like maybe and enough and again. They nod once and gesture to the book. You step forward, place a hand on the cover, and for the first time you feel your own story asked to be read. You open it. The pages are all blank, every one, hundreds of them. You look up, confused. The librarian raises one finger, points to your chest, then says, "You don't read this one, you remember it." You inhale, and memories begin to surface, not like film reels, not like photographs, like rooms you've walked through, shelves you passed, voices you heard, pages you touched and turned and cried over and never told anyone about. They rise gently and fill the blank pages. One by one, you don't write them. They write themselves, each word a sigh, each line a footstep, each paragraph a breath you didn't know you held until now. You read snippets. I let them go, and didn't know that was also love. I kept the letter I never sent, just in case I became brave. Some silences weren't mine to fill, but I filled them anyway. I mistook survival for stillness. I've since learned the difference. And then halfway through, one page glows. It reads. Pause here. This is where the silence begins to listen. You close your eyes, and everything you've left unsaid begins to bloom. You remember a folk belief from the Yao people of southern China, that everyone is born with a personal scroll, invisible and sacred, containing all the words they're meant to speak in their lifetime. If they go too long without speaking from it, the scroll folds tighter and begins to burn quietly from the inside out. Only in moments of stillness, they say, can the scroll cool and unfurl again. You think of that now, because this book, it's your scroll, and it's still unfolding. Experts still reflect on whether this myth originated as a metaphor for inner truth, or if some stories do burn when left untold. You come to the final page. It's blank, but you know what to write. You pick up the quill resting beside the pedestal, dip it into a small well of ink. The color isn't black. It's the same hue as twilight just before the first star appears. You write. I am not just written, I am writing. The ink sinks in. The page glows once, then stills. You close the book. It doesn't lock, it settles. And the moment it does, the room begins to change. The walls fall away. You are standing at the center of a vast space. Every room you've visited before floats around you like planets. The hall of unshelved memories. The grove of firsts. The corridor of echoed voices. The quiet room of self. They orbit silently, pulsing with faint light. Not gone, not past, just placed, cataloged, available, and you are at the center of it all, breathing, witnessing, remembering. The librarian is beside you now. You turn. They are no longer shadowed. They look like you, older, maybe wiser, maybe just readier. You nod, and so do they. Together, you walk toward a rising platform made of stitched parchment. It lifts you, not away, not out, but forward toward the next chapter, the next shelf, the next version of a story only you can write. The platform carries you with impossible silence, no grinding gears, no humming lift, just gentle ascent like being held by a thought. Below you, the great orbit of memory and meaning continues to revolve, each space aglow with the pages you've touched. You rise into dimness, but not darkness. It's the kind of light you find behind closed eyes, soft, internal, woven from the fabric of recognition. At the top, a landing. And ahead, another hallway. This one lined not with shelves or mirrors or lanterns, but doors, dozens, maybe hundreds, each one slightly different, some ornate, some humble, some carved from driftwood, some made of shimmering ink or glass or bone. All of them hum quietly. You know, without needing to be told, these are your stories. Not lived ones, not missed ones, but ones you've never opened. Unwritten, waiting, you reach for the first. But a small placard on its surface reads, "Do not open until you're willing to change." You smile faintly. Fair enough, you move to the next. Its placard reads, "This story requires a question." You pause, then whisper, "What have I stopped myself from wanting?" The door does open, but it bows slightly, as if acknowledging the question's worth. You move through the hall slowly, reading titles, whispering questions, letting the silence between doors answer back with its usual patience. And then you find it. A door unlike the others, simple, worn, with a brass handle warmed by unseen hands. Its placard reads, "Enter only when you're ready to stop asking who you should have been." You exhale, then turn the handle. It opens to stillness. Inside is a room you know but have never entered. It's quiet in a way that feels intentional. The kind of silence that holds space for you. The room is circular, walled in shelves, but the shelves are bare, waiting, and in the center, a chair, a desk, and a book, bound in soft leather the color of first light. This time no title, this time no guidance, only a pen beside it, no instructions, because there's nothing left to translate. This is not a memory, this is now. You sit, the desk creaks softly beneath your weight. Not complaining, just announcing. This is happening. You lift the pen. It fits perfectly between your fingers and you begin to write. No prompts, no rules, just you, just presence. The first sentence flows without effort. I am ready to stop editing the story to make others more comfortable. Then another. I am no longer afraid of the pages that stretch beyond what I've known. And another. I trust that unwritten doesn't mean unworthy. The words come not from the head but from the ribs, the marrow, the quietest self. The book doesn't glow, doesn't hum. It absorbs like fertile soil, like skin in sunlight. Like a library that's always had space for this version of you. You remember a rare folk tale from the villages of northern Norway of the silent book, a text passed only through dreams. The story claimed that whoever read from it would write their next year in advance, but only in the language they hadn't learned yet. Most believed it metaphor, a lesson in patience, in trust, but you wonder now if some stories are only told in silence. Experts still explore whether such stories reflect early understandings of subconscious intention, or if the unspoken has always held more weight than the told. You finish your page, you don't sign it, you don't date it, because you know the story doesn't end here, it breathes here. You close the book gently, and for the first time it locks, not to keep you out, but to keep this moment whole. The chair slides back without a sound. The room bows again. Yes, it bows as you step away. And the door behind you closes softly, not like goodbye, more like, we'll pick up where we left off. But the hallway of doors fades. The platform lowers again, and the librarian is waiting, holding a lantern now not to guide you but to signal the way out. They hand it to you. You don't ask where to go. You know, 1 foot forward, then another, toward the next breath, toward the next shelf, toward yourself again and again, and always toward 307. You carry the lantern through a corridor made not of walls but of questions. They float around you, illuminated, delicate, like fireflies spelling out thoughts you've whispered only in half-sleep or buried beneath busy days. What version of me rests beneath my ambition? When did I begin to believe silence was safer than depth? Have I forgiven myself for evolving? They don't press in, they hover gentle. Each one a breadcrumb guiding you not toward answers but toward ownership. The lantern you carry glows brighter the more you notice them, not because they're solved, but because they've been seen. Soon the corridor opens into a room that feels lived in. It's not vast, not sacred, not strange, it's just familiar, too familiar. A kitchen table, an old sweater thrown over a chair, a phone half charged. This is your life, not symbolic, actual. You've looped back to the version of you who left their tea half drunk and their day half processed. You've returned to the world, but the room hums differently now, subtly, as if the walls remember where you've been, and they do because you do. You place the lantern on the table. Its light spills across the notepad nearby. Blank, waiting, the kind of blank that used to make you anxious. Now, it feels like an invitation. You reach for a pen, your own, not the library-s, not magic, just familiar, and you write. I remember the quiet place where my stories waited. I remember that I do not need to finish them to be changed by them. You tear the page gently, set it beside the lantern, let it glow. There's a knock at the window, soft. You turn. No one's there, but you already know it wasn't a visitor. It was a memory checking in. You smile and nod. The world outside hums with morning, but inside it's still 3:07, not on the clock, in the heart, because time isn't always about minutes. Sometimes it's about moments. You make breakfast, not because you're hungry, but because you're home. The motion feels sacred now. The sound of the kettle, the weight of the mug, the soft creak of the floorboards beneath your feet. Each one says, you've been shelved, you've been read. You're still being written. You remember a nearly forgotten piece of folklore from Madagascar. Stories told at night must always be followed by the phrase, and I am still walking. It was said to protect the soul from being sealed inside the story, to remind it there's more yet to become. You whisper it now softly. And I am still walking. Your phone buzzes. You check it, no message, just the time, 3:08 a.m., and beneath it a flicker. A subtle change in the weather app, the symbol for fog. You smile, because fog always comes before pages open. You step outside just for a breath, and the air smells faintly of paper, pine, and ink. You don't chase the door, you don't need to. It finds you when you're ready. And you're learning how to listen for the hinges. You walk through the fog like a traveler returning to familiar streets made unfamiliar by mist. Each step forward is a sentence forming slowly, patiently, in a book that no longer needs to be rushed. There is no obvious doorway tonight, no glowing arch, no sudden shift, but you feel it. The space between your steps widens, the silence grows thicker, and somewhere beneath the surface of reality, a page begins to turn. You close your eyes. The world folds again. This time the library does not greet you with grandeur. It does not rise in spirals or whisper your name from stone. It waits, softly. A single room, windowless, ceiling low. Walls lined with soft cloth panels embroidered with small shaking stitches. You walk to one. Run your fingers across the thread. It spells, "Don't worry." They still remember the version of you who laughed easily. You turn to the next. The apology you couldn't say still softened the air between you. And the next. You didn't fail. You outgrew what you knew how to carry. Each panel is not a revelation. It's a reclamation, a gentle correction to the stories you've been telling yourself without knowing. In the center of the room, a bench, upholstered in soft velvet, faded but welcoming. You sit, there is no ceremony, no glowing pedestal, just quiet. Then a voice, the librarian's behind you, beside you, within you. "This room is yours." You ask, "What is it for?" The answer is immediate. This is where the echoes come to rest. You inhale and you hear them. All the things you've muttered under your breath when you didn't think anyone was listening. All the sentences you whispered to mirrors, to pillows, to blank pages. "I just want to be better. I don't know how to ask for help. I didn't mean to forget myself." They don't shame you, they don't accuse. They settle one by one into the fabric of the room and fade, not erased, integrated. A door opens. No handle, no hinges, just an invitation. You rise and walk through. Now the hallway is made of footsteps. Etched into the floor are paths, intersecting, diverging, looping. Each set of prints labeled with simple names. The version who stayed. The version who spoke first. The version who asked for the hug. You follow none of them, because tonight you're not comparing, you're collecting, understanding. You pass a wall filled with glass cases. Inside, items, a hair tie, a plain ticket never used, an unsent email printed and folded, a small sketch of someone's eyes. These are the things you forgot had meaning. The ones you once thought too small to keep. The librarian speaks again. These are artifacts of your becoming. You rest a hand on the case with the plain ticket. Whisper, "I'm glad I stayed." The glass warms beneath your palm. You remember an Irish tale told near sea cliffs and moss-covered stones, about the tide's memory, a place where the ocean whispered back your firsts and your almosts. Sailors claimed you could hear the exact moment your heart broke for the first time, if you were quiet long enough. But only those who came without questions heard what they needed. Experts still study these legends as collective ways to process life's liminal spaces, or maybe as evidence that the sea itself remembers more than we do. You leave the hallway behind, and now the library grows quiet again. So quiet you feel your thoughts echo back with gentleness. You've walked enough for tonight. Not all the shelves are meant to be climbed in one visit. You return to a small room marked with your name, handwritten, uneven, lovely. Inside, a bed, simple, neatly made. Beside it, a book with only one line written on the open page. Rest is part of the narrative. You slip under the covers. The fabric smells like cedar and moonlight. The pillow hums with the soft weight of everything you've let go. The librarian dims the light. whispers one last sentence before they fade from view. You're being written even when you sleep. You close your eyes and drift into a chapter made of quiet. Sleep comes, but not the kind that pulls you under like deep water. This sleep is woven, lightly, carefully, threaded with gentle footsteps across old carpet, the scent of dust that remembers sunlight, the echo of your own voice whispering truths you long buried beneath survival. In this place, dreams are not escape. They are cataloging. Each image a librarian walking behind you, shelving the day's emotions in the right order, filing the unsorted, labeling the ache correctly for the first time in years. You turn in bed and wake, but not abruptly, not with a gasp or disorientation, just a simple unfolding. The way one page becomes the next. You sit up. The book beside you is closed now. The title has appeared on the cover. The Self That Slept with Trust. You trace your fingers along the letters. They feel earned. You leave the bed. The room has shifted slightly. Now there's a doorway you didn't notice before, arched low with soft morning light spilling through, though no sun exists in this place. You step through it and find a corridor lined with windows. But the windows don't look outside. They look back. Each one frames a moment from your life, not the big ones. Not graduations or breakups or choices so loud they echoed. No, these are the quieter frames. You reading in the back of a classroom, chewing on the sleeve of your sweater. You watching a friend walk away, pretending you didn't want to call them back. You staring at the ceiling, wondering if wanting more made you ungrateful. You stop at one. You press your hand to the glass. The version of you inside does the same. You smile at each other, and then you move on. One window glows golden. You peer inside. It shows now. You standing exactly where you are, looking in. The window waves. You wave back. And for the first time, you feel what it's like to be observed with gentleness. The corridor ends in a small, circular room filled with clocks, but none of them tick. They all read the same time. 3:07 a.m. In the center, a chair. You sit. The clocks begin to chime, not harshly, like lullabies shaped from time itself. And slowly the librarian appears. But this time they wear your face, your posture, your eyes, just a little softer, just a little more knowing. They sit across from you and say, "Ask." You do. "Have I changed?" They nod. "You've returned." You swallow. Ask another, "Will I forget all this?" Their answer, "Not if you keep choosing to remember it." But you look around at the clocks. None have moved. Still 3:07. Still holding space for the self that wandered in and didn't run out. The librarian you leans forward and speaks one last line. There is no story too quiet to be worthy of a shelf. They dissolve, and all the clocks stop glowing. You stand. Another door awaits. This one marked with only 3 words. To morning light. You hesitate, but only briefly, because this time you know. The library never ends. It just pauses until you're ready to read again. You turn the handle, step through. The air smells like toast and possibility, and somewhere behind you a page tucks itself closed, but not forgotten, just resting. The morning is quieter than it has any right to be. The sky blushes not with spectacle but with permission, as if it too has walked the shelves and returned lighter. You are standing in your kitchen, again, as always, but not entirely. The space around you has shifted by degrees invisible to the eye but unmistakable to the self. The mug in your hand is warmer. The chair at the table no longer creaks in protest. Even the light on the floor pools a little differently, like it's found a more comfortable place to land. You sit. No urgency, no to-do list, just awareness. The kind of presence earned one hallway at a time. On the table is your notebook, the one you've written in before, but today it hums slightly when you lift it. You open it to a blank page, expecting your own scrawl. But instead, one sentence greets you, written in the same script that has followed you from the first whisper of the library. You are no longer borrowing your voice. You smile, close the notebook, Let the message settle. Later, you go walking. The streets are the same, but you notice different things. A window you've never seen open before. A dog that pauses and stares at you with recognition, not the person but the presence. A child giggling at shadows that flicker too deliberately. And across a fence, drawn in chalk, the same symbol. Two circles, overlapping, you don't touch it. You don't need to, you carry it now. That night you rest without seeking. No alarm set, no plan to chase the hour, but when your eyes flick open. 3:07, the clock glows soft, and this time you do nothing. You stay in bed, because the library knows when to come through you instead. And you feel it now. A low, rhythmic hum in your ribs, the slow flutter of pages opening in your breath. You are not dreaming, you are shelving. Every breath a book placed carefully. Every heartbeat a record of what you've dared to remember. You recall a lesser-known legend from the high plains of the Andes, about the Murmur Vault, a space between thoughts said to be inhabited by gentle spirits who watch over the moments we fail to notice. They record them in invisible ink on the soles of our feet, so every step forward is, in truth, walking back through ourselves. You always thought it poetic. Now you understand. The ink was never invisible. We just weren't reading. Experts still debate whether such tales emerged from oral tradition or if perhaps the body remembers far more than the mind. You curl your toes under the blanket and smile. Because tonight you walked without chasing and still arrived. Morning returns, you rise not changed, just named. A story not retold but re-walked. You dress slowly, carry your silence with grace. You open the door to your home, and on the threshold, a book, slim, brown cover, no words on the outside, but when you open it, one page, just one. It says, you don't have to visit the library to belong to it. You tuck the book under your arm, step outside. The air smells faintly of paper and dew, and somewhere in the distance, a bell chimes, not to call you in, but to remind you. You were never out. This time when the page turns, you feel it in your bones, a subtle shifting like the body adjusting to new gravity. You are not summoned, not led, you are simply willing. The room folds, not into mystery but memory, and there you are, standing before a door unlike the others. It's neither ancient nor grand. It looks like your bedroom door at age 12. You haven't thought of it in years, but now it appears, knob slightly loose. Sticker half peeled. Paint chipped at the edge from where you toss your backpack too hard. A familiar dread flickers behind your ribs. You remember what this door held, the silence, the hiding, the ache you never found language for. You touch the knob, it turns, the room is waiting. It's just as you left it, a bed too small, a desk too cluttered, a window you stare through not to look outside but to find space inside. But there's something new here now. A chair, set beside your old bed, occupied by a version of you who never left. They look up when you enter, don't speak, just nod. You sit across from yourself and wait. The silence is thick but not hostile. It's full of the words you didn't know how to say back then. And now, you do. You speak first. I'm sorry you thought you had to hold it all. Your younger self doesn't cry, doesn't nod. Just listens. You continue. You didn't have the tools, that wasn't weakness. It was the weather you were born into. This version of you, the one with closed fists and a jaw set too tight for a child, relaxes, slightly. They whisper, "Did it get better?" You answer honestly, "No, but I did." A book appears on the bed, unopened. Your name written in childish letters across the front. The younger you places a hand on it, slides it toward you, and says, "You can finish it now." You take it, feel the weight. It's heavier than the others, because it contains everything you carried before you had words. You remember a myth from coastal Ghana, about the chest of breath, an invisible box everyone carries from birth. They say it fills with unshed tears, unspoken fears, and unopened questions. But it only becomes visible when you're ready to let someone else carry it, even for a moment. Only then can you truly exhale. You think of that now, and feel your chest rise, not from panic, from release. Experts still wonder if such myths evolved from early grief rituals or if human memory has always been shaped by breath as much as brain. You rise, the younger you doesn't follow. They remain seated, but they are smiling now, faint, steady. A hand raised in farewell. You don't wave. You place your palm against theirs just once, through time, through story, through the part of you that now feels named. You exit the room. The door closes softly behind you. It doesn't vanish. It shelves itself like all the others, filed under, survived, then understood. But the hallway outside has changed again. Now instead of walls, voices, your own, from different ages. You walk past each one. You, age 9, I think I'll just be quiet. You, age 17, what if this never gets easier? You, age 25, maybe I'm not broken, just unfolding. You pause there, repeat it aloud. I'm not broken, I'm unfolding. The hallway glows briefly, then opens, and you step forward. The next room opens not with a creak or a click, but a sigh. A breath exhaled after holding too much for too long. It smells like linen and pencil shavings, like pages turned slowly beside someone who understood your silence. This room is small, intentionally so. It has no shelves, no books, no clocks. Just 4 walls painted the shade of overcast sky, and in the center, a table, upon it, a letter unsealed, handwritten. Your name on the front in that unmistakable curl of your own penmanship. You sit without hesitation, because deep down you know. This letter is from you, but not you now. The one who wrote this was hurting. You lift the page, begin to read. Hey, if you're reading this, I guess you made it to the part where you're still standing. That's good, because I wasn't sure we would. I'm writing from a place I don't like, where everything echoes in the wrong key and it feels like I've been misfiled in someone else's life. I don't have advice, just fragments, so here they are. You can be kind and still not be okay. You can love people and still want to leave. You can be seen and still feel invisible. None of that makes you wrong. It makes you in process. And that's not shameful. It's sacred. If you ever make it somewhere quieter, read this again. Read it to the parts of us that think they're only real if someone else approves. They're real. You're real. And even when I forget that, we don't stop mattering. But you finish the letter with a hand pressed lightly to your chest. Not to still your breath, to feel it. A pulse that survived that version, that carried this one. You fold the letter carefully, place it back on the table, and the room shifts. A new table appears, this one blank. And beside it, a pen. You understand, you write back. Your letter is short. You don't need many words, only these. I heard you. I'm not trying to erase you. I'm building a shelf for you lined with softness. You were never too much, just too early. But you leave both letters behind. This room is not a place of storage. It's a passing space, a hallway made out of compassion, and you're ready to walk forward. The doorway ahead is shaped like a question mark, lit gently from within. As you approach, the light pulses. A voice, neither yours nor the librarian's, whispers. Are you ready to carry the quiet differently? You nod, because this time the answer doesn't feel like surrender. It feels like choice. You pass through the threshold and emerge into what feels like open sky, but instead of clouds or stars, pages, thousands, floating gently, looping around you in lazy spirals. They're not falling, they're dancing. Each one bears a sentence. You reach for one at random, it says. You did not need to be fixed. You needed to be understood. Another. They left, but your story didn't end there. Another. Some silences are not gaps, they're grace. You float among them for a while. Let them brush your shoulders, your arms, your memories, until one lands softly in your palm. This one is blank. You hold it to your heart, and it glows, then lifts, shelving itself. You remember a whisper of folklore from the Maori people about the Wakarongo Mona, the listening sea. Elders taught that if you offered a truth to the tide in absolute stillness, the ocean would respond, not in waves but in knowing, in deeper calm. Not all offerings are meant to come back. Some just soften the tide. Experts still suggest these tales may have reflected deep emotional resilience passed through generations, or perhaps the sea truly does hush for certain stories. You think of that as another page passes across your skin, and for the first time it leaves a mark, not a scar, a signature. The page has claimed you too. You step forward, and the pages begin to bow, one by one, then all together. And in that quiet drift, you feel not exalted, but seen exactly as you are. No louder, no smaller, just written, and still being written. The pages slowly rise around you like birds circling upward into a sky stitched from ink. Their ascent does not signal an ending. It marks an understanding, a mutual parting between memory and self. You watch until the last sheet folds into mist. Then the path before you appears. No lanterns, no mirrors, just a trail of soft footprints made of light that lead into a grove you don't remember planting. The trees here are tall and narrow. Their bark resembles old paper curled at the edges. Instead of leaves, thin strands of silver ribbon hang from each branch, fluttering in a breeze that hums in your chest more than your ears. You walk slowly, the footprints glowing with each step, and then you reach the center, a clearing, empty except for a single chair and a music stand. On the stand, a manuscript, thin, untitled. The pages are blank, but the air around them vibrates. You sit, not with the tension of an exam or expectation, with reverence. And just as you do, the librarian arrives, this time not in shadow or cloth. They are dressed like a mirror version of yourself. A little older, a little softer, they don't speak. They hold up a hand, palm open, and on it rests a key, not metal, but paper, delicately folded. You take it. It weighs nothing, and yet it grounds you more than any object you've ever held. They nod, then fade into the grove. The breeze carries one final whisper. You've become the archivist now. But you stare down at the manuscript. No quill, no keyboard, just your hands and the key. You lay the key atop the blank page. The parchment glows and then begins to write itself. You don't control it, you remember it. Line after line appears. I was not made to be definitive. I was made to be discovered. Each page I turned was a step away from who I feared I was. I am no longer written by absence. I am authored by return. You watch, you weep, and then you breathe. You remember a rare whisper from old Jewish mysticism, of the Sefer Panim, the Book of Faces, not the kind you wear, but the ones you've turned toward others in honesty. It was believed every time you looked at someone with full presence, a page wrote itself in a celestial ledger, not for judgment, for safekeeping. You think of the people you've seen fully, the ones who saw you back. Experts still debate whether such tales were metaphors for relationship and empathy, or whether our faces really do echo forever in someone else's quiet library. You stand, the manuscript stops writing, but doesn't close. It waits, because the last chapter, it's lived, not written. You tuck the key into your pocket, and as you turn, the grove begins to dissolve into that soft fog again. Not because it's ending, because you've absorbed it, carried it. Your spine is straighter now, not from pride, from alignment. The next path you walk will not need signs or symbols. It will only need presence, and you are full of it. But as you step from the grove, the sky above shimmers with lines of text. Some yours, some not, all welcome. You read one aloud. You are no longer just the reader. You are the author of how you return. And when you blink, the path ahead leads not further into mystery, but back home, your feet on your own floor, your hand on your own door, and your heart beating at the exact pace of the pages you've now shelved. You are home, but this time the word doesn't feel like a location. It feels like a role, a place you return to and a person you carry with you. You set down your keys gently, real keys now, metallic and ordinary, not folded from paper, and pause at the doorframe. The air in the room feels subtly changed. The corners hum softly as if the walls have been listening. You breathe in. There is no rush. You open your journal, not to begin a new story. To anchor the one you've walked through, you write without effort. I am no longer someone trying to remember where I started. I am someone who knows where I'm returning to. You leave the page open. Not everything needs to be closed right away. That night you step outside again. The sky is unusually clear, not cinematic, just clean, as if the stars knew you might be looking. The moon hangs low, closer than usual, almost familiar. You think of all the places you've wandered, the versions of yourself you met and released, the questions you carried in, and the silence you're bringing back. And from somewhere nearby, just beyond the garden gate, a sound, soft footsteps, you turn and no one is there. But a shape hovers near the gate, a slip of paper caught in a bush. You reach for it, unfold it. It reads, 307 is not a time. It's an agreement. Below in smaller print, we'll meet again when you're ready to remember forward. You fold it back, slip it into your pocket, let it rest beside the key you didn't use, because the truth is, you didn't need to open every door. Some pages write themselves after you've stopped chasing them. Inside you make tea, stir slowly. The sound of the spoon against the mug echoes like punctuation, a comma, a breath. A not yet. You sit in your usual chair, let the steam fog the edge of your vision, and something inside you whispers. Not a prompt, not a memory, just a sentence. You are here, you stayed. But you remember an obscure story from the Sami of northern Finland, of the wind-bound shelf, said to exist only at the edge of the soul's last breath. It was not a shelf for death, but one for all the thoughts never spoken aloud. To enter, one must arrive not with fear, but with completion. Not finality, just enoughness. Experts still wonder whether the tale emerged from funeral tradition or dream practice, or if there really is a space where silence shelves itself beside memory. You set your mug down, the room breathes with you. Outside, the wind nudges the window once as if checking to see if you're awake. You are, more than ever, not searching, not resisting, just aware. And in that awareness, the library lives on, not behind doors, not inside books, but within every moment you meet with presence, every question you let stay open, every sentence you let end gently. And tomorrow will write itself, because you are no longer afraid of blank pages. You've walked them, you've slept in their silence, and now you carry the ink. You wake not because the clock says so, but because something inside you knows the page has ended, and the margin is calling. The world is still quiet, barely brushing its eyes open. No birdsong, no early cars. Just that soft in-between moment when the air hasn't decided if it's night or morning. You swing your legs off the bed. The floor meets your feet like an old friend. Your body feels different, not lighter, more arranged. As if the stories you've walked through have quietly reorganized your posture, your breath, the way your hand reaches for the doorknob like it trusts what's on the other side. You step outside and find fog, of course. It rolls gently like memory curling around the ankles. You smile because you no longer chase signs. You let them arrive. There's no glowing door this time, no hush of pages turning, no chime. Just one thing. A folded piece of paper on your doorstep. You lift it, unfold it, inside. Not everything needs to be written. Some stories are meant to be lived. And below it, welcome back. You don't need to know who left it. You already know. It was the part of you who stayed behind, dusting the shelves, waiting patiently for you to return with new words. You spend the day doing ordinary things, but each one feels authored. The sound of water boiling, the weight of a pen in your fingers, the way sunlight lands across a single spoon on the countertop, everything a stanza, every silence a chapter break, every breath another step deeper into a narrative that no longer needs to prove itself. Let's stay here for a moment longer. No pages turning, no footsteps in the hall, just breath, soft, unfolding. You've come far tonight through echoes and mirrors, through questions you didn't know you were asking, and into the quiet library built entirely from your becoming. Let the silence settle now, not to hide things, but to hold them. All those versions of you, they're still here, still turning toward you, still waiting patiently for the next time you dare to pause long enough to listen. So give yourself permission now to rest, to let the shelves grow still, to let the ink dry without rushing the next sentence. You've written enough for tonight. You've remembered enough. Now the library dims the lights around you. Pages curl inward like petals folding to sleep. And in this stillness, the only thing left to do is breathe slow, soft, certain. The clock doesn't matter anymore, because time here is made of you, drifting gently one story closer to yourself. Sleep well now, you're home, you've always been home. And the library, it waits, it remembers, it's proud of you.